A corpse in the hosting chair this week. Great.
I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein!
I know I'd go from rags to riches.
Why, a 4-year-old child could understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make a head or tail out of it.
Or will I go?
Barabelli, you've got the brain of a 4-year-old boy, and I bet he was glad to get rid of it.
My fate is up to you.
Now I'd be shitting my pants if I was you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Your List Sucks. Top 100 scenes of all time. Episode number 4, 70 through 61, I believe. I'm back. Took a sabbatical last week. Jake had made some picks the previous week that made me need some time off to reconsider, the point of the show, the point of my life, the point of human existence. But we're back. I'm here in the hosting chair. Kaleb Koho is backstage producing. We're finally at full strength, 4 episodes in. Hopefully don't screw it up too bad. Jack, after a string of second-place finishes, how do you feel about this week? Do you think it's possible you might pull off number 1 finally?
I mean, I doubt I'll make number 1, but number 2, the second place isn't out of sight, I think. So we'll see. I'm a little haven't been feeling terribly well today, so I'll be trying to talk a little less.
All right. Yeah. Cody, undefeated so far. You won with me, you won with Koho. You got to keep the streak alive tonight.
Listen, Jack talking less, shocker. I think the over-under right now is 2 tired, so you can place the bet on that, how many times he says that, and how many times he passes you to talk about the scene, why you like it more than him is at 1 right now. I think there's chances of 2 or 3 being called. No, I'm fine. I'm battling allergies, so I might not be as feisty, or I may be more feisty. I'm not 100% sure. But anything's better than that corpse we had last week. The man he doesn't watch movies on normal speed. He couldn't even watch scenes that were 10 minutes long. The man did no effort. No effort, and he knew it for a week. Crazy. It's crazy time. So I'm glad you're back.
All right, Jake.
Yes.
I'll be nice. It's been a struggle so far. You've been having a rough time. Do you think you can crawl out of last place? No, I feel better because Koho had last place last week too, so that's not just me.
Mm-hmm.
Can you crawl the cellar this week?
I don't know if this is the top 10, but I think it's rising as far as I feel. The quality and the less outrageous picks that I think you and some other people might think are on my top 100. But I have been having fun and I've been enjoying the reaction, and it's fun to talk about scenes that are just kind of just fun, Godzilla scene in Crank High Voltage, for example. It's good to have those type of scenes.
All right, not last but not least, the man who last week wanted to call me out for a movie I liked, and then proceeded to die on the hill defending Phantom Menace. Scott Harvey. I hope we don't have a repeat of that while I'm here this week. How you feeling about your chances going into this?
Look, first of all, if I'm going to have things held against me for things I said about movies that were not even on my list, then I'm probably in trouble. However, I've been in the middle up to this point. I enjoy watching certain reality television programs. People may not know that, but The Amazing Race, Top Chef, there are always these people who are in the middle of the pack, and they coast along simply by not being the worst. And by the end, all of a sudden, they're in the finals and they win. It's like, how did that happen? It's going to be me.
And that season sucks normally, so I'm with you. When that happens, like, what the hell happened? Group sucks.
Let's see that. Let's find out how that happens. Jack, kick us off. Remember, everybody, we're under spoiler alert. You see a movie that you don't want ruined for you. Mute until you see the banner go away and a new one come up. We're doing this like a regular Your List Sucks still. Regular Your List Sucks rules. Jack, start us off with your bottom 3, 70 through 68.
All right. My number 70 is Lisa investigates Thorwald's apartment from Rear Window. And my number 69 is the Four Jacks scene from The Sting. And my 68 is Recounting the Day from Mass. So when Jason Isaacs, if you've seen it, you know. All right, 70. Lisa investigates Thorwald's apartment. This scene is brilliant. It's incredibly tense. You're stuck in Jimmy Stewart's apartment with him the entire time while Grace Kelly goes across the courtyard to Thorwald's apartment and starts looking around, seeing if she can find anything. And every time I watch it, I start sweating. I start shaking. It's incredibly tense. One of Hitchcock's best moments that he's ever directed. I love it. Incredible scene. The Four Jacks scene from The Sting. I'm sorry, Paul Newman is just fantastic in this scene. Where he just this is where he first meets Lonigan, played brilliantly by Robert Shaw, and they play a poker game together on this train, and Newman is acting drunk the entire time. And he cheats his way to beating Lonigan and his buddies, and it's just so much fun to watch. Absolute masterclass of writing in that scene. And then Recounting the Day from Mass. There is not a single scene last year that destroyed me as much as this scene did. Jason Isaacs' performance in this scene, well, all four actors, and Martha Plimpton, I can't remember the other guy's name, but I think it's Richard something.
Reed Birney.
Maybe his character's name is Richard. I can't remember. Whatever. Jason Isaacs steals the scene here when he's recounting. For those of you who don't know what this film's about, it's two parents are a set of parents from a kid that had passed away in a school tragedy, and the parents of the kid that took the other kid's life. And in this scene, Jason Isaacs goes into graphic detail about how everything unfolded that day and how he knows what his son's final moments were like, and it's heartbreaking. Jason Isaacs giving one of the best performances I've seen in a long time. Incredible moment.
All right. Your number 70, Rear Window. I really like this scene because I think the best thing about this movie is the set design and just the space they have with all the different apartments and other building, and it's a real physical place that's that they're moving in and out of, and I think this scene really highlights that. Like you said, building the tension, but also bringing attention to just how many moving pieces there are within that building and that courtyard and that whole complex there. So yeah, I think this is my one of my top 5, definitely Hitchcock for me, and what you see in this scene is a big reason for that. The Sting, yeah, I think this is a really good scene. Just Newman, him playing the con artist and coming in drunk and kind of turning the tables. Robert Shaw is trying to cheat him basically, and he ends up cheating back to beat him. And just so many you learn so many great things about those characters without a whole lot actually being said, just watching them play this game. And then Mass, I haven't seen the movie yet. I watched the scene. Isaacs is in a little bit. I watched Isaacs fantastic. Just the best acting I've seen from him. You completely forget this is like the guy from Harry Potter and all that. All the other stuff he's done. Just real powerful. I want to see it because it seems like it's really well acted and really just well made. I don't want to see it because knowing the subject matter and watching that scene, I imagine that extrapolated over an entire movie has to be pretty rough. But the scene was pretty good. So that is Jack's bottom 3. Cody, we go to you next. I'm muted.
It's my turn?
Yes.
Sorry, I had an internet snafu. Okay. My number 7 is the John Wick's introduction in John Wick. Basically, the phone call leading to the entire smashing the stuff. My 69 is Marty meets Doc in 55 and Back to the Future. Yeah, okay. He can't. He fire the man behind the thing. Doesn't do it. Doesn't.
He
He's
may
a
or
corpse
may not
again.
be
He's
also.
dead. He's dead. Somebody look out for the man. He's
He may
dead.
or may not be also managing during this as well.
Oh, great timing! Great timing. They're probably going to lose anyways if it's who I think it is. And 68 is Let's Go Fly a Kite, Mary Poppins.
All right.
Okay. So 70. The more I look at this, probably way too low for me. I think this is one of the greatest introductions to any character in film history. I think it's just absolutely epic. Basically, where it starts is he gets off the phone with I don't know the character's name, but John Leguizamo's character, and he's like, he killed his dog, and he hangs up, and you just hear like the slow beat of the score like start, and he gets his son, and he like starts talking to his son. He first beats the shit out of his son. Basically, he's like, "What, that nobody? I stole his car. It doesn't really big," and then he starts basically telling the story of John Wick and calling him. He's like, "So he's the boogeyman? No. You send this man to kill the boogeyman, the Baba Yaga." Basically, all the breakdown, why this is happening in this epic tale, and how like slow and precise he is. Like, I don't know the actor that plays the father, but how he looks at him, like the longing look in the film. He's basically like saying his final goodbyes to his son because he knows what's coming. Like, he knows there's no getting out of what he just did. And he will kill 1,000 men to do this one thing. So he keeps telling the story, and why this is happening, John Wick is heading down to his basement, and the score is getting intensified, and he's got a sledgehammer, and he's basically bringing back the thing that he set behind. And I think it's one of the greatest like introductions to a character because he creates this larger-than-life character in total of like 8 minutes. Of this character that you're like, okay, he beats the shit, he kills his dog, it's sad, but you don't know what he just unlocked, and it like sets the stage for the rest of the movie, and I think it builds like the perfect world. Like, you don't know what the coins mean, you don't know why he has all the guns, but you know something's coming. And then it ends when he picks up the phone and he calls Wick. And he basically is like, oh, sorry that I had to cross paths like this, blah, blah, blah. Wick says nothing, hangs up the phone, and he knows from that on it's over, it's done. I think it's a perfect introduction. 69, Marty meets Doc in 55. There's a lot of scenes I can pick from Back to the Future. I think it's a perfect film. I love this film. It's my third favorite film of all time. The reason why I picked this is because I think it has the greatest interaction between the time travel and Marty and Doc. Basically, Marty comes back. He finds Doc Brown in 1955 and is trying to explain to him because he needs to get back because he's time travel and he needs to get back to where he's present. And it's the exchange basically between him and Marty and Doc having no clue who he is, not believing. It's the classic line where, well, Mr. Future Man, who's the president in 1955? Ronald Reagan. And he loses it. What? The actor? Who's the vice president? Jerry Lewis? And then it goes through the whole thing, and like their whole exchange of him being a scientist, like puts the thing, and he goes, well, you know what this means? This damn thing doesn't work at all. Like, it's this comedy that's built in the scene, but you get like the perfect like 85 meeting 55 from the two characters that you already think, and I think it sets like the perfect tone for that movie. And my 68 is Let's Go Fly a Kite. Probably my favorite Disney song of all time is Let's Go Fly a Kite because I think it's absolutely just perfect from what the film is. I've described this film as a movie that I think of like I don't think the world, as harsh as it is at times, deserves like a movie like Mary Poppins to exist in it. I think Mary Poppins is like joy, happiness, like rolled into one film for me, and it brings back so much nostalgia. And Let's Go Fly a Kite is basically the, like, Banks, anybody that's had a dad or a rough around the edge dad that doesn't break those molds and doesn't, like, get you to, like, know the character or, like, know the fun side of him, this song is, like, a perfect indication. Banks is this hard-nosed dad, like, I will run my house with respect and discipline, and you will not pass that. And this is the end of the film where he basically lets down his guard, and he's like, you know what? I quit my job. I'm going to go fly my kite with my kids. And the song breaks out, and it's this joyous feeling. And I love the ending of this. Well, I think it's just a brilliant thing. It's like Poppins had to enter the picture for Banks to break down to become who he was. So let's go fly a kite.
All right. Yeah, John Wick. I don't think it's, for me, this is not a top 100 scene, but I understand why you put it on here, and I understand what you're saying about it. It is a great character introduction, just the way they do it through the eyes of somebody else and the way they build him up. Like, you get all the mythology of John Wick right there and why they're so afraid of him. I just love the interaction. Kind of reminds me of, like, Road to Perdition with Paul Newman and his son, like how, like, I'm obligated to protect you, but you're a stupid moron, and like, he knows, like, not only is, yes, he's going to kill my son, he's probably going to kill me, but now I'm obligated to send like dozens or hundreds of men to try and stop him, who are all also going to die. And it's all because of you and your stupid mistake. And Alfie Ellens is such like a perfect little like sniveling bastard, like so perfectly cast in that role. And just the way like he like just how clueless he is. Like his dad's beating him up. He's like, "What do I do? I don't know. I don't understand what's going on." And like he's just not grasping it. So yeah, no, it is a really great way to introduce this character. And I don't think the rest of the movie works as well if you don't do something like this to really like make people understand who he is. The Back to the Future Back to the Future scene, I do think, like you said, there are other scenes from Back to the Future I'd probably put on here, but it is a lot of fun. I just love the time in that moment. He was like, "Do you have an idea what this means? This thing doesn't work at all." I think Christopher Lloyd's really good at that. And just like something that's never brought up and like just real low key, the fact that he's the exact age, like he hasn't changed at all in 1955, and they never address it, never talk about it. It is what it is. I think is hilarious. Mary Poppins, yeah, I mean, it's just so like you said, just joy and happiness. And just everybody finally, after all, like, especially like how dour that scene is where he gets fired, and just how like just what a low moment that is to come back from that. Also, but at the same time, as a dad who's been out of work and in that situation, I watched it like, this dude's losing his mind. Like this probably isn't going to end well. Like, but it's still within the scene. It's a lot of fun. We move on now to Jake for your bottom three.
So my number 70 is the ending / Then I Woke Up from No Country for Old Men. My number 69, the karaoke scene from Booksmart. And my number 68 is Jazz and Miles Davis from Collateral.
That's the yikes.
That's yikes? Cool. So 70, Then I Woke Up. One of just like the most like somber and most melancholy endings ever to any movie that I've seen. Just the whole sequence of events that happened throughout No Country has sort of just like has shaken Tommy Lee Jones to the point at the end he just retires. He's like, I can't really keep up with this evil that's just changing. And at the end, he tells his wife 2 stories, 2 dreams that he's had, both featuring his father, and just sort of like him going into detail how it's sort of like feels like him sort of moving to the next stage of his life or like the end of his life. And that's sort of the whole idea behind the movie is morality, and just the fact that he talks about him riding horses with his dad, and then how he sort of leaves him, and then he knows that if he keeps going, he'll be able to see him then. He just like, at the end, he just goes, "Then I woke up." Like he doesn't have the ending that you think it would have, like a dream. And kind of like this movie, it just ends on Tommy Lee Jones' sort of like somber face and just like recollecting the fact that like that his life, or his sort of like his life is almost at the end of it, and we just don't know what's going to happen next. Just really somber ending. 69, karaoke scene from Booksmart. I love Alanis Morissette. She's one of my favorite artists. I'm a massive fan of Jagged Little Pill album. I remember watching the film in the cinema, and I knew I was liking the movie a lot. But then when it came to the point when that karaoke scene happened, and then You Ought to Know starts playing, I just was like, oh yeah, this is destined to be one of my favorite movies. And when George is singing the song, and there's just like certain things he does, which is just hilarious. He eats the mic Elvis style. He just goes, "You ought to know, Alan." That stuff's really good. But the moment that just really makes it for me is when Amy starts singing, and like this is sort of her finally coming out to Not just, I mean, not like as just she's gay. She's been out since like 10th grade, but finally coming out and actually talking to people and finally hanging out with Ryan, who she has a crush on. And it's just like finally this sort of like fuck yeah moment of her finally being sort of herself with others. And it's sort of just really great scene, but also it's a scene with Alanis Morissette song. I love the scene. It's awesome and it kicks ass.
All right, okay, yeah, that was yikes. Okay, yeah, the No Country scene. This movie, I'm not the biggest fan of it. The more I watch it, the more I like it, the more I get out of it. So like, I don't love this scene, but I'm not going to criticize it because I think there's more to it than I've got out of it so far. So I'm definitely going to. Holtzman heard the Holtzman signal. You talked about Booksmart.
Right.
He immediately logged. He knew
he
he
just
had to log
came
on.
out of nowhere.
Someone in Australia is talking about Booksmart. I need to get online. No, I think there's more to this than I've grasped, and I think that's this whole movie. But this scene in particular. So, like I said, it's not a scene I love. I think Tommy Lee Jones acts it very well. But I think there's more meat on the bone that I haven't got off it yet. So it's a good pick. Booksmart movie I don't love. But this my absolute favorite moment is George the theater kid that starts the song.
Yeah.
When he's I want you to know. Shh. That is the greatest moment. I break every time. I don't even pay attention when the girl starts singing. I love his character. He's my favorite character in the movie. I think he's so funny. I just love how he keeps showing. He's everywhere they go. But yeah, like I said, not my favorite. Obviously, not a scene I'd put on my top 100. But if I want to pick a scene from this movie, this is the one I want to pick. And your 68 was yikes. So we move on to Scott.
All right. My number 70 is the Larry's house scene from The Big Lebowski. My 69 is the dinner party from 20th Century Women, best summed up by the word menstruation. And my 68 is from The Godfather. It's the killing of Sollozzo and McCluskey.
That's a yikes.
All right. Number 70, Larry's house. Yeah, The Big Lebowski to me is one of the funniest movies ever, and this is probably the funniest scene. It definitely makes the best use of the funniest character, which for me is Walter, played by John Goodman. This is when they go to the teenage kid's house and are basically just haranguing him. And John Goodman keeps holding up the homework. Is this your homework, Larry? Is this your homework, Larry? And the kid is just completely stone-faced, not reacting, not doing anything, like not saying anything. And he's like, Larry, have you ever heard about Vietnam? And just keeps going off. And you see what happens, Larry? You see what happens? Just keeps repeating it. Takes the golf club, goes out and just starts beating up the car, which of course we can already kind of predict that it's not Larry's car. It's not anyone in Larry's house's car. It's the neighbor and it's this brand new red sports car that he just bought. So it just sums up the chaotic absurdity of the movie's best comedic moments. Also has a fun fact. The TV edit says, you see what happens, Larry, when you find a stranger in the Alps. Of course, not what he actually says in the real movie. But one of my favorite musicians, Phoebe Bridgers, her first album is called Stranger in the Alps because of that edit. So just a fun fact. But 69, I have the scene from 20th Century Women. If you've seen the movie, it's the most memorable scene, definitely from the movie. It's at a dinner party that is being hosted sort of at the boarding house where a lot of the movie takes place. And so Annette Bening's character is there, and Greta Gerwig's character, and Elle Fanning, all the sort of main women, and of course Jamie, who is the young boy that's the protagonist of the film. And there's also some other sort of bohemian type individuals who were there that seem to know Greta Gerwig's character in particular. And it turns into this discussion where Greta Gerwig's character first just kind of brings up in passing that she's having like menstrual cramps. And then Annette Bening is like, you really shouldn't talk about that at the dinner table while we're, eating dinner. And it kind of turns into this war of attrition because it makes Greta Gerwig want to be even more explicit and say, hey, well, we shouldn't, stigmatize this. It's a perfectly normal thing that women experience. And so we should all just say the word menstruation. And she starts encouraging everyone to just say the word menstruation, including Jamie, again, the young boy, and Annette Bening is just like, mortified kind of course. And probably my favorite moment of the scene actually though is Billy Crudup's character, who also is like helping them out a lot. He's kind of this like sensitive guy who is hanging around with all of them. And after they've had this sort of conversation about like, the female, body and all that, he kind of says, I think when you have sex with someone, it's not just their body that you're having sex with, it's the whole person that you're doing it with. And there's just kind of a silence, and Greta Gerwig's like, I don't really think that's what we were talking about, but thank you for for saying that. And it's a great comedic moment. So it's a funny scene, but it also kind of sums up what is really good about the movie and sort of the generational divide and capturing like this very specific period of time, like the sexual revolution, where like this older generation represented by Annette Bening is sort of at odds with Greta Gerwig and the other folks, more free-spirited and open-minded lifestyle. So it's a great scene.
Okay, Big Lebowski, another Coen's brother movie that I'm on record as saying that I don't love, especially as much as a lot of other people do. But Walter is the best character, and Walter's shenanigans, I guess you'd say, is the best thing about the movie, and just how how quickly he goes from like 0 to 60 out of nowhere. Like just he's ready to fight, ready. He pulls out his gun, whatever. Like there's no middle ground for him, and I think that's a great scene. And just them interacting with it, like they can't, trying so hard to break this kid, they can't do it. Just like this teenager, is a lot of fun. So yeah, this is probably one of the better scenes in the movie. Like I said, one I don't love, but this scene's a lot of fun. 20th Century Women. I've seen this. I think, did I watch this? Was I playing you when I watched this? Did I watch this?
I think you watched it for my top 100.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, good movie. Yeah. The scene's funny. I think Greta's good. And like you said, just the different reactions you get to from people, going through this is a lot of fun. And I think she anchors it. I think, she just handles it really well, like a really natural way. Your 68 was Yikes. So we're moving on to the meat of the order. Everybody's going to get to battle it out now. Starting with Mr. Jack Pinchuk, whose internet just froze. And when you're ready, Jack, you're number 67.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
No. My 67 is Lunch with Chef Finway from Pig. Yeah. This scene is easily my standout moment from the film. For those of you that haven't seen the film yet, Nicolas Cage's truffle pig gets stolen early in the film, and he goes to this restaurant to find out to find information on who has his pig. And he sits down with Alex Wolff's character at this restaurant, which he sits down, and the chef comes out and starts speaking to him, and the chef recognizes him as his old boss, Chef Feld, and Nicolas Cage recognizes him too, and completely destroys this man in one 3-minute conversation. Just destroys his career and his self-esteem as a chef, and it's just so interesting to see. The screenplay for this film is immaculate, but this scene is where it's easily at its best. Absolutely my favorite moment of the film. And once again, Nicolas Cage. I can't say enough great things about his performance in this scene.
You're muted, Kirk.
Oops. It's the chair. I'm not the biggest Nick Cage fan, but he's doing some really fantastic acting here, and I love the interaction because the chef Chef Fidway is such like the perfect foil for his character. Like he comes in, he's like beaten and bloody. He's got that long, dirty beard. He's got blood all over him. His clothes are all ragged. And he sits out like this pristine restaurant, and the chef comes out and pretends like nothing's wrong. Like he's like, oh, it's like perfectly normal. Like, hey, how are you? Just polite. And he's the perfect foil for Cage's character, who's like completely off the grid, completely like abandoned, like polite society. And this chef is just like completely leaning into that. And like you said, he just breaks them down. Like why it's almost like a Fight Club type scene, like a Tyler Durden kind of like just break it down. Like, here's what you wanted to do. Why didn't you do that? What are you doing here? This is ridiculous. None of this is real. And how the she's really trying so hard. Like he just like Cage just hit him with like these like truths like about his life, and he's like, oh yeah, I guess that's a good point. Got a big smile on his face and everything, and you just watch him like melt away, and like just Cage just gets perfectly like just hones in and targets everything about this guy's life and everything he's been denied about himself in a matter of minutes. So yeah, this is a really good scene. I really enjoyed this. Has anybody else seen Pig yet?
I saw it. I'm not as big of a fan of it as everybody else is. I think this movie, I think Nicolas Cage, I think it wants to sort of have its cake and eat it too with Nicolas Cage. And it wants to be like this very sort of serious, like intense drama about grief. But also you have Nicolas Cage, and the premise of the movie is that he's like trying to get his pig back, which is a ridiculous setup that kind of lends itself very well to camp. Potential, and I don't think the two things ever come together. I think this scene is like kind of self-indulgent, like it's going almost for sort of the viral, like, oh, Nicolas Cage destroys waiter, like that you can watch on YouTube. But in the context of the movie, I don't think it makes as much sense, and it kind of speaks to sort of the tonal imbalance, which is the main problem with me for this movie. So I understand why someone who likes the movie would pick it, but it's just not for me.
I mean, I think you just got like $5 extra in your like Kingsman thing by mentioning the screenplay. So good job, Jack. You did a great job, even though I don't think you know what that means. The screenplay is not great. No offense. I don't understand why this sets it like that level. My overall thing is, I think there's better scenes in this movie, but overall, I don't. I think this movie is like, I'm 100% with Scott on this one. I think it's like two total different, like, I think the concept of the movie is interesting, but then they make it as such a ridiculous, like, premise. So you can't, like, fully wrap your head around or get behind, like, the ridiculousness, because I don't think Nick Cage is a great actor. I've never thought he's a great actor. I mean, there are moments and everything. I think you can find a scene or a movie, but overall, I don't find him that interesting. And I think there's better scenes in this movie that he does a little bit better. So it wouldn't be my list at all, this high. Even. So.
Jake, I'm assuming you haven't seen it.
I've not seen it. Want to stay away from spoilers because I do want to watch it.
All right. Okay. What's your next one, Jack?
All right. My number 66 is Shane's Farewell from Shane. Yeah. This scene breaks me every time. It's the perfect finale to this film. Shane, he's wounded, and he's just come back from dealing with all the people that have been giving Joey's family trouble and harassing Joey's family. And he's been shot, and he says a final goodbye to Joey and says, you go to your mother and you tell her that there's no more guns in the valley. And his final monologue is just perfect. And he rides off, and you're never sure what happens to Shane after that, but it's the perfect farewell to this character. And yeah, it makes me tear up every time.
Okay, Jack, level with me.
Don't you say it. Don't.
If this movie isn't in Logan, does it make your top 100 list?
Yes, this movie is great in its own right. I'm just because I love Logan and love this movie, that doesn't mean anything.
No, it's a pretty good scene. I watched this movie the first time this year, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. I thought it was like I always had the idea in my head it was kind of just like a hokey western, but it's actually pretty solid, and the ending's pretty good. Just I love that those kind of movies where it's you have the character who just doesn't as much as he wants to be a part of the world, it's just not his world. He doesn't belong there, and he has to keep that separate. He can interact with it and he can do things for those people, but ultimately he has to move on because it's not his world. And like you said, I love the ambiguity of it where, he rides off and you just don't know, what's going to happen to him. Everybody else on Shane.
Haven't seen it.
It's not where I've seen the scene, but I've never seen the movie.
All right, Jack, takes us to your 65.
All right. My 65 is the hallway fight from Inception.
Yikes.
Yeah. And my 64 is Schofield's Battlefield Run from 1917. Yeah. Roll your eyes all you want. I rewatched this today with my nana, and it's just as great as it was when I saw it in the theater. I mean, obviously, seeing in theater is something else, but like the scene still holds up. This time later, it will never send chills down my spine as Newman's score plays over Schofield, just sprinting to Colonel Mackenzie's where Colonel Mackenzie is down the battlefield line. It's truly one of the greatest moments in the last decade of film for me. I can put the scene on at any point and it just it's incredible. I love this scene so much.
Yeah, I think the biggest down point of the scene is that it's been overplayed so much, like you see it everywhere, and but it's still a great scene, especially like when you watch behind the scenes and how they filmed it, and like the fact like him running into that guy wasn't scripted. He just collided with the extra and got up and kept running. Yeah, I mean, especially after everything comes before, like it's just he's so close to his goal, and he now just that like final charge, just him. You have this whole battle that's about to happen, but you're focused on just the one guy and just his mission. I think it's just a pretty cool juxtaposition between those two things. Cody, you're rolling your eyes at this. What do you think about this scene?
Not the scene from 1917 to pick. If you want to do a buzz scene and pick the thing that will stand the test because it was that shot, cool. But like I was wrong on the scene in the dark. And with the flares going off, that's like the better scene from this overall. I even think like the plane coming down scene, like at the, I think this is a very cool shot. I just think this is just classic. Just Jack just had to get his buzz scenes in there that makes like if you play them back to back, yeah, they have something. But like, sure, the movie itself like is a technical like something to see. I don't love the film. But I said this, it will stand the test, but, like, come on. Like, do we really need to talk about the run across the battlefield scene again? But good job, Jack. It was slow, quick, no real, like, character moment, no dialogue. You didn't have to talk very long. You're smart when you're tired. I like it.
You're not going to get any hate from me. Like, I absolutely love this movie. It was in my top 100. This is, of course, the iconic scene, as we pointed out. However, it's not my favorite scene from the movie. That's all I'm going to say on that. As for the scene, it's very well done. And, yeah, it's, in another movie, you'd be like, or if you just watch it in a vacuum, you'd be like, this seems kind of ridiculous. He's just, like, running straight along the battlefield. But I think in the context of him having been on such a journey, you understand why he does it, and you're so in on the movie at that point that you're willing to go along with the minor suspension of disbelief that you have to have for the scene to work. But yeah, like the whole scene, the music, everything, it's extremely powerful.
I do like the scene. I like this movie a lot. Like one take stuff just is like my favorite thing ever. even if people still call it a gimmick film. Yeah, I do think the scene's great, but this is like the most overplayed like Oscar scene. Even though it's a good scene, it's definitely like the one where everyone goes like, "Look at this is cinema right here. Like this is the Martin Scorsese. This is cinema." And I disagree. There are 2, 3 other scenes that I like more. There's one after the scene. There's one before the scene. I think are pretty good. But yeah, no, it is a nice scene, but it's definitely like textbook Jack Pinchuk of a scene. So. Yeah.
I'll say, I mean, I agree with you guys that from a technical level, just looking at the scene itself, their price scenes are better. But I think within the context of the film, this is the best scene just because of like I said, everything that came before. So that was Jack's number 64, which takes us over to Cody Newberry, number 67.
My 67 is the ending to The Graduate.
Yikes. Yeah. I'm just gonna.
I don't love ever how confident he is on anything. So, like, is it
90% of the time, I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's a yikes.
Okay. That pisses me off. You don't deserve The Graduate. Anyways, 66. Pay him his money. Rounders. Final poker scene, basically between KGB and Matt Damon's character. Again, there's a theme. I love poker. I've watched more World Series than I'd like to admit. And this is like one of the like ultimate like the bad guy gets his comeuppance at the end by this, and it's like he gets outsmarted. He figures out like the tell. He gets all the stuff perfectly placed, and like he figures out the Oreos at the end. He ends up smashing them because that's what he got him the first time. He beats him, and then he stands up and he's like, "I pay you with your own money." And he's like, "What?" He beat him for a big hand at the beginning of the movie. He's just repaying him with the money he already won. He still wins, and he convinces him to sit down and play again. And it gets tense at the end because he's like splashing the pot. Like KGB is like running the money across the thing, splashing it. And Matt Damon, poker etiquette and all, he's like, "Please don't splash the pot." And the classic, "I will splash the pot whenever the fuck I want." And just basically just is like raining. And then he loses and he like flips out and is like at the very end, he's like paying his money. He ends up winning. It's a lot of uncut gem kind of thing. It's like this guy's down a terrible road. He's got a terrible friend throughout it. He's got all the skills to be successful, but he keeps like getting in deeper and deeper. And he doesn't know way out. And this is like the opposite of Uncut Gems. He gets his come out, he wins, and he's able to ride off into the sunset, cut ties with his bad friends, and move on. And I think it's a campy scene. It is not like John Malkovich, but I think John Malkovich is doing a great job as KGB. I think it's just brilliant where he's able to deliver it. It's one of those like over the top scenes, but I think overall it pays out really well.
Yeah, I think was it the Molly's game scene we were talking about last time? Was it the last poker scene?
Yeah, full tilt. Yeah, yes.
Yeah. And I said that like I'm not a big poker guy, but I like in movies when they break it down the way they do, and like hey, and I think it's poker is such a great game for cinema just because of the way it plays out and how it can be explained, and this and I think they do a really good job. And like you said, that moment where he turns around, he's like, "Okay, I won. Okay, movie over." He gets his money. He can go do whatever he needs to do now. He's like, "No, I have to go for that." And that's kind of like the whole thing. Like his whole movie is like, how far is he willing to go? So I think it's good. Like it's and he makes the dumb decision. And in Uncut Gems, it doesn't pay off here. The dumb decision does. So you're almost not rooting for him because like, you just get out while you can, stupid. But it works out. It's pretty cool. Everybody else, how you feel about the ending of Rounders?
Great scene.
Climatic scene of Rounders.
Really good movie. It's one of my brother's favorite movies. He's a big poker head, like you, Cody. And I think he's seen like scenes from this movie like 20 times. So I kind of know it from him. But yeah, this is a great ending. I do like the ending. I do like the sort of the turn. It's just really good stuff. And when he notices the turn, like with the Oreos and like that whole stuff is really cool. And I think let me just check my notes. I think AFI awarded John Malkovich the greatest performance of all time, and he's the greatest accent ever as Teddy KGB, because it's just like flawless Russian. If you ask me.
I haven't seen this movie.
Me either. I need to.
All right, 65, Cody.
Two people will not understand this. Scott probably will not understand this either because it's not in his room. But there's something that's a little overdone in the United States of America, and that's patriotism. And when you do the rah America, there's something about it. And this scene is from The Patriot. It's the tomahawk scene from The Patriot.
It's about to be the last scene of Blowout.
This movie does not get enough credit for how fun this movie is. My favorite time, there's 2 times in history that I find 3, I guess, is fascinating. I think the Civil Rights Movement is very fascinating, and I like to study World War II, and the Revolutionary War I think is super interesting to study about. It's what I studied a lot in college. The tomahawk scene in this scene is ridiculous and campy, but the setup before it. It's Jason Isaac, right? Koho, give me a thumbs up, right? That's play, yeah. One of the most ruthless villains in any movie that no one talks about. He is by far the biggest scumbag that you've ever had in a movie. He basically
you want to talk about a crumb bum, scum bum, punk.
Facts. He shows up at Mel Gibson's farm because his son, played by Heath Ledger, has returned. He's injured, and he's taken in all these different troops, including British. He's helped them their medical treatment. They all show up on horseback, and he says I can't think of his name, but Mel Gibson's character is hey, he's been in war. He's been in the war. He knows the rules and stuff like that. And he's hey, he's a message writer. You can't hurt him, blah, blah, blah. And he's I'll give you a lesson in the rules of war, and shit, puts the gun to his head. He's or your family. Basically, he burns his house and then ends up shooting his child. Shoots his child because his child makes a move for him and runs towards him, and he shoots it. So his son is now dead from the hands, and his other son's captive. So basically, him and Mel Gibson and his 2 sons run into the woods with him, and they're basically gonna bombard this group that's taken Heath Ledger's character. And he basically sets up, and this is old school muskets, you have to reload. There's a huge time, and he's basically the famous aim small, miss small. I quote it all the time, but he's they're going to take shots, and he's going to end up running back and forth to help them and take out all these men. There's 20. He gets to a point where there's 5 or whatever left, and then he pulls out his tomahawks, and he just goes fucking ape shit on them. Just fucking brutalize them. One gets right to the head. He cuts them down, and he ends up saving his son. It is so awesome. There's a lot of scenes from The Patriot I honestly could pick because I think this movie is really underrated. But this scene is when he aims and throws it, and he ends up it's so bloody. When they show, as you showed on TNT all the time, but when he shows it's completely gray because he jumps in the river and basically brutalizes because that's the person that shot his son, and tomahawk scene, Patriot, rah USA USA.
Yeah, the movie overall is not something I would describe as fun. It's more how many more family members does Mel Gibson have that Jason Isaac can brutally murder? That's the whole point of this movie.
So true.
But this scene is fun. I watched it. I hadn't seen this movie in a while. I didn't remember. I remember him cut the cut of him coming up with the tomahawk, but I didn't remember the whole scene. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like studying those eras too, and I like the older stuff like Civil War, Revolutionary War, when because you always see the reenactments and stuff, and it's always so clean. I like when they show how gritty and dirty it was, with glory. They open the battle scenes of glory and stuff like that. And this one, I just love how they're sniping these guys, and just early on the first couple of shots, guy just gets hit. You see the one shot, just the blood run down, the guy go down. and just like how he's tactically like taking all these guys out. And yeah, once he gets down there and he makes that final shot with the tomahawk. Yeah, it's a great action scene, just great setup. And like it's one of those things where it's like, it's almost like with Inglourious Bastards and the Nazis, like you don't want to see, like there's no need for mercy, like, and you don't feel bad. He can't do anything bad enough that's going to make you regret what he's doing. Like you want to see as much merciless violence as possible, and they give it to you. And I love how that pays off here. I wish it did a little more later in the movie, but that's neither here nor there. Anybody else see The Patriot and have comments on this scene?
Nope, I haven't seen it.
I've seen it. I used to really like the movie when I was like early high school, but I honestly probably haven't seen it since then. So I would need to go back and watch it again to remember the scene, because all I remember about the movie is Mel Gibson like swinging the American flag at people in the final battle. And yeah.
I'm not American, so obviously I haven't seen this movie.
All right. Cody, here's 64.
Basically, this movie, I think is brilliant. I think Spencer Tracy is one of those actors that is just the classic actors that I absolutely love, and it's the "Remember to Love Your Woman's" monologue from Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, or his monologue, and Jack had it earlier. This movie, this was the year that. Who is it? Sidney Poitier basically taught two white guys not to be racist, and they both got the nominations and he did not, which is also still one of my like favorite like Oscar moments. He taught the two white guys not, and they got the awards. This was if anybody's still one, it's Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy is absolutely incredible in this film, and it's basically the breakdown of the film. Again, this was, I think, one of Loggedit's movies of the month, I believe. I'm not sure. So a lot of people in the community finally got to watch this. Basically, it's daughter returns home, brings her fiance to the thing, and they're completely just racial lines are not crossed at that point. And it's basically his breakdown because everybody is at odds. The mom and dad from his character are like, no, you cannot marry her. She's like, I'm going to marry him regardless if I get your blessing or not. He's saying, you're not going to marry her unless you get the blessing. So it's back and forth. And he finally is like the voice of reason, where he finally says, listen, like, he's talking through the entire, like, basically playing through that entire setup while he's delivering this, and it gets to a point where like she's like, you said that to him? And he's like, yeah, well, this might be the last time I ever get to tell you this, but shut up. And he goes in and he goes, there is no doubt that the love that she feels for you is what I felt for your mom, and it will be here long after I'm gone. Like, he basically breaks down and says, you guys are fighting against something that doesn't make any sense. Like, this isn't our business. This is our fight. Two people have found a love that is not thing, and treat her with respect, love her, cherish her. You have my blessing. And like, it ends. And like, I just think overall, seeing the movie, the time frame this movie came out, and to deliver that with two of like Hollywood's like top actors at that point, Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn in this movie, and basically like saying and Sidney Poitier, and basically let's move the line. Why are we still fighting about that in 60s when the height of the civil rights and everything? I think is just brilliant, like film, like, and what they're able to do. And I still think this movie is like it's something people still need to watch and still need to reflect on, and I think this is a monologue. Because there's also a scene in this movie that I wanted to pick, is like when he's getting the ice cream, and he's basically breaking down that, because I think that's also a great scene that leads to this scene, because it's like, why can't everybody just I like vanilla, you like let's just all me and stay away from it. But I think this scene is absolutely brilliant. And
I love this. Oh, you had this too, right, Jack?
This is my 79, I believe.
All right, good.
Yeah, this is my 79. This monologue is incredible. Spencer Tracy gives a hell of a performance here. I was one of the people in the community that saw this for Logged It, and I I'm so happy that it was the movie of the month because I had a great time with it. It's easily one of, I feel, the most important films of its era, and this scene perfectly encapsulates it. It's it's a brilliant scene.
This is a. I love this movie in general. I think overall, Spencer Tracy's given the third best performance, and that's nothing against him. I just think Katharine Hepburn and Sidney Poitier is like probably like one of my top 5 all-time performances in this movie. But I love that he gets his chance to shine in the scene, and like Cody said, basically just wraps up everything that's kind of happened throughout the day, and him. Realizing that all the stupidity that he's gone through earlier is like, okay, no, it's not worth it. We need to let this go. I think there's also like a meta element to this because Spencer Tracy died, like he was dying when he filmed this. And, like the connection between him and Katharine Hepburn in real life, I think when you see her like watching him, like her character has kind of already come to this conclusion, has been waiting for him to get there. And like you see that pride in her, of her as she's watching him come to these realizations, and and it's also Katharine Hepburn watching Spencer Tracy do this, this kind of acting probably for the last time, is kind of a really cool moment. So great scene, a lot of great scenes you picked for this movie. This is a good one. Scott and Jake, have you seen this? And if so, why did this make the list?
I have not seen it, but I have seen Guess Who with Ashton Kutcher and Benny Mac. So if that means anything,
Scott, go ahead.
Sadly, I haven't seen it yet either.
All right. That takes us. That was your 64. So now we're over to Jake. Jake, 67.
67. We have one scene from The Big Lebowski. Let's have another one from The Big Lebowski. My favorite scene, probably. Donnie's obituary from The Big Lebowski. So this scene is really funny because this just really just further. I mean, it's at the end of the movie, but it just shows like how still crazy Walter is, and he'll still bring up Vietnam and Saigon and all the men that died there. At the point, Donnie's died. He had a heart attack. They have his ashes. They're on like some sort of cliff over in the sea, and they have this and Walter has this obituary. So he's gone. He was great. He loved bowling. He loved the sea, the ocean, and he also loved bowling. And he doesn't really say really much about Donnie, and he just brings up Vietnam and how. And God, you took him the same way you took all those young men in Saigon. And the dude's just there, just listening and just having no clue what the hell he's talking about. And he just goes, good night, sweet prince. And as he dumps the ashes into the ocean, the wind blows the ash straight back into the dude's face, which is one of my favorite comedic visual gags ever. Just the shot of Jack Bridges just getting all this ash of his dead best friend, just covering him in his face. Absolutely hilarious. And then Walter just notices, and then the dude has this tirade against him. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you talking about? What the shit had anything with Vietnam? And they just have this little somber moment at the end where they just sort of hug. I mean, Walter's really just trying to hug him there at that point. Just really good stuff. It just further just shows why John Goodman gave one of the greatest comedy performances ever. And just that gag is just everything that's just funny to me. It's just the fact that just ash just blows straight in his face. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, continuing the conversation we had about the last scene, like you said, Walter just kind of just doing his own thing. Like, really, it has nothing to do with Donnie. It's all about him and his situation, and just and that's kind of was their relationship the whole time. Like, it just continuation of the relationship between Donnie and Walter is like, well, Donnie was just kind of there and following along, but it was all about Walter and the dude, and. So again, not a movie I love. Pretty good scene. Not I like Scott's better between the two. Not one I'd probably pick for a top 100. Everybody else on the funeral scene from Big Lebowski.
I couldn't care less at all. No, nothing from this movie should make the top 100.
I still haven't seen the movie.
It's a great scene. This is kind of the moment where the dude, it feels like he's finally fed up with it. Like he's finally I've had enough. But Walter can almost sense that, and he's like, I'm sorry, or whatever at the end. And he's just like, like he wants to strangle him, but like he's still his buddy at the end of the day. So it's a great scene.
All right, we got next, Jake.
My number 66, Holtzman had brought it up, weirdly enough, the pool scene from Booksmart.
Nice.
All right. This is also just another scene. Like, I honestly could have just picked the whole party sequence from Booksmart, but there are so many just great individual scenes that I just really love. And this is sort of like, this is the most beautiful, the most somber, and just the one that really represents like sort of Amy's sort of character, and so her just being sort of free. I mean, the song that I really love the song that plays during the sequence. It's "Slip Away." I can't remember the artist, but it was featured in the 8th grade trailer. I remember that at the time, and just the fact that like her and Ryan jump into the pool, and she's just there's like a good like minute and a half where she's just like just swimming underwater, and it's just beautiful, just really just good looking movie. And that's also sort of the revelation that sort of happens when she notices Ryan and Nick, who is Molly's crush. They are together and kissing, and that's when she sort of has this realization that, oh, wait a minute, that's not shit. But it's just really beautiful, powerful scene, and like a lot of the movie is driven through Molly, but it's at this point during the pool sequence where it starts to become more with you focus a little bit more on Amy and sort of her sort of struggles and her as a character and her sort of being free and having that freedom that she never really had, and being able to go to this party is just like means a lot to her, and being able to finally hang out with Ryan and actually just hang out with other people, and just like really, really good stuff that I just thought was excellent when I saw it, and then continues to get better every time I rewatch this movie and this scene.
Jake, can I ask you a question?
Anything, yes.
How did you get so good at trivia? Because obviously not from watching a lot of movies. We've been doing this for a month now. Every week you come to me with multiple scenes from at least one
There
movie.
are multiple great scenes from movies. You can't deny
I know,
that
but
there's
if
only
you
one
were
great
watching
scene.
more movies, then you'd have more scenes. I don't think you need 2 Booksmart scenes in your top 100 scenes of all time. Scene's fine. It's nice. It's cute. It's nice for the character.
Wow.
Everybody else on the pool scene, the scene that immediately follows Jake's last scene. We're just going sequentially through Booksmart now. Everybody else have thoughts on the pool scene.
Yeah, I saw the film for the first time this year, and this is easily the scene of the film for me. Yeah, it's the one I immediately think of when I think of this movie. Great pick, Jake.
Wait, you're a Kingsman and you hadn't seen the movie sooner, like 2 years ago?
I know, right? And I live 30 minutes away from Ken Holtzman High School with him. I should have seen it sooner. I just didn't.
I'm surprised he didn't hold you at gunpoint and say you have to watch this like the week after it came
Well, let's be real. Like the Kingsmen have Jack because of family ties. It's like a universe, you like sororities, like you're automatically rushed in because you have family. Like that's the only reason Jack's there.
A legacy.
He's a legacy. That's about it. And Koho's sister is going to join soon. Anyway, so listen. I think this is the scene to pick from Booksmart. If you're picking a scene, do I believe a scene should be on the list? Probably not. I don't think the movie's that great. But overall, like this is the scene. Like I think she's fantastic. How it's shot, everything, the character development. Does this also follow in when she meets up with the other girl and like the whole Malala scene happens? No. Okay, that also if that's a tie. Okay, cool. Overall, yeah, I think this is the scene to pick from the movie if you're going to pick one. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's a comedy, and this is one of the least comedic scenes probably. But in terms of like the most well-crafted scenes in the movie, this is definitely up there. Like I just love the way it's such a smart way to like have that like sort of heartbreaking moment, not really through any dialogue or everything, but just like seeing their legs underneath the water. That's like a great visual storytelling that always gets me, and is the sign of a good director who has perhaps gone astray now, but at the time a good director. But anyway, it's a really good scene, and yes, "Slip Away" by Perfume Genius is an amazing song. It was one of my favorite songs from whatever year it was that it came out, so definitely check it out.
All right, Jake, let's hit your number 64.
Five?
65.
So this is Yikes. I Yikes this from Scott's list last week. It's The World at Still from The Worst Person in the World. Definitely. So I didn't know how this happened, but The Worst Person in the World became my favorite movie immediately after I had seen it. And I went into this not expecting it to be number one. I thought I'd like it. I didn't know much about it, but when I came out of it, I was this is my favorite movie of 2021. I didn't think that was going to be the case, but it was. So thank you, Paul, for that. And this is the best scene in the movie, hands down. The movie's split up into, I think it's 12 shorts or 12 scenes, essentially, with the epilogue and the prologue, something like that. But this is moment, almost halfway through the movie. Julie is in a relationship with a guy. He's a cartoonist, and at this point, she's met this guy Elvin, I think his name, at a wedding, Ivan, and they sort of have this unique sort of attraction, but they have their own partners. And halfway through the movie, she just has this sort of fantasy sequence where everything just stops. Everything, time stays still, and she's moving. She just runs out of her apartment, runs out in the street. Everything's frozen, and she just meets up with Ivan. Right, that's his name, Ivan. Yeah, Ivan. And then they just sort of have a date. They just walk through the park. They just talk, and then you just have this moment. You don't really get much of it, but you just see this just great sequence just play out. And I believe it's a dream. It's a fantasy sequence. She just has this moment to herself where she just gets to be free from her boyfriend, but also just have this sort of this fantasy sort of sequence with this guy that she kind of is starting to really like a lot, and just really powerful stuff. And it's really just just the way it's made. I really like it. And Joachim Trier just is a filmmaker I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does next after this. I know he's made films before, but this is definitely the one that has really piqued my interest in his filmmaking. And I just really, really cool scene, and just something that's the magic of the movies that I'm a big fan of, and just seeing the medium of film do something that no other medium could really do. And this is a standout scene from the movie.
And I had it at 71, I believe. And yeah, it's so good. It's a sort of experimental moment in. There's kind of two sort of experimental scenes in the movie, but in otherwise straightforward type of movie that you've kind of seen before in terms of the character and the sort of themes that are at play. But it's such a great scene because so much of the movie is time is getting away from her, right? She's turning 30. She's she doesn't have a husband, she's kind of between jobs. She doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life. She is still unfocused at this point in her life. And so, yes, this is the ultimate dream, right? To just be able, for someone in her position, to just be able to freeze that time, to stop that time from passing, and to just do what you want for a day, which in this particular moment is to go and spend the day with Ivan. And just that image of her running, which is of course on the poster, which I have hanging across from me right now in my apartment. But is it's such a euphoric moment in the movie. I think again, especially if this movie hits right in my age bracket, and so I really relate to the feeling in some regards that she's going through, and it's such a beautiful way to capture sort of her desire in that particular moment.
Okay, I haven't had a chance to see the movie yet. I want to see it. I just haven't yet. So I watched the scene out of context. And judging it from that, I really liked it because I got from it everything you guys just explained through the filmmaking. There's almost no dialogue in it. And just through what's happening to her, I got the sense, it told the story. So I judged it the only way I can that way. I think it was a really solid scene in the context of the movie. Who knows? I may hate it. It may suck. But it just standalone. It's a great, like you said, if it's meant to be almost like a short film, I think it does a really good job of that. Cody and Jack, have either of you seen this movie? And if so, thoughts on this scene?
No, I muted so that I wouldn't have anything spoiled for me. I've been told this is the moment of the film, so I just muted.
I'm also really concerned. Did he just come back with a backwards cap? Because I'm going to leave.
That's what I was also going
to
say.
Okay, thank you for turning that around. I'm about to leave. There's just a few things. This movie never really hooked for me. I didn't really. I think the scene's okay. I'm just really curious why Koho watches some foreign films on 2 times speed and some not, and like loves them more. So it's kind of curious. I'm kind of trying to figure that out because this one I don't think he watched, but gave it 5 stars. But Drive My Car doesn't like it.
It's actually.
Well, yeah.
No, this one's actually good. Gotcha. Okay. Just checking. How do you determine like how long? We need to have like a film breakdown of when he decided to hit the button. But other than that, no, I think the scene for you guys, I'm glad it's in 60s because any higher, I probably would have like cried a little bit. But overall, sure.
This is actually slow.
Turning 30 is not so bad.
Then Drive My Car. Time is literally not moving in this scene. So
I fully, as somebody that's seen both and didn't really love either one, I'm so confused on. Yeah, like Drive My Car is longer, but overall, I think this one.
That's what I literally think it is. It's a 3-hour movie.
It took Koho 5 times to watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to finally understand what Tarantino was going for. So let me tell you, the man's an enigma.
Jake, what's your 64?
At number 64, going to Tarantino. 64 is Mia Overdoses from Pulp Fiction. This may be my favorite scene in the movie. I think it's from the. I mean, it is sort of dark, but like just they come back from the. They go back from the Jackrabbit Slim. They won the dance competition. They're in Mia's her home. She plays "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon," which is a song that I was obsessed with when I first saw Pulp Fiction. And then she notices in Vincent's jacket I believe it's coke. She thinks it's cocaine, but it's actually heroin. And she overdoses. And it's like the way it's shot and the way just like Uma Thurman just loses it. I'm like, oh fuck. And especially since oh my god, I'm blanking on Ving Rhames. His name is Marcellus Wallace. He looked like a bitch. And he's been told Vince has been told by Marcellus to like make sure that she's safe and she's fine. And like this is a oh shit sort of moment for him. And then I don't know how long it is between him realizing that she's overdoses and when she took the heroin, but it's just the moment where it just focuses on Mia's face. And you just hear Vincent come out from the bathroom, and then he just like there's a good 2 seconds where he just like says nothing. He's like, Jesus Christ. And then when she's like she's just drooling, he's just like, oh fuck me. And then he quickly takes him to her to Eric Saltz's to house, and then it's like, we gotta do something. And then he's got the I think it's the adrenaline shot, and he's like, you gotta down in a stabbing motion, and then that whole sequence like, who's gonna do it? You give me a fucking magic marker, book pen, magic marker. The whole sequence, just like the energy of it and how it just rushes you through the whole scene. It's like, we gotta get her revived or she's gone. And just like the tension of her just between her getting stabbed with the adrenaline, it's just like you gotta do this right. You gotta get it, you gotta pierce the chest piece. It's the whole thing. You totally get what's going on. And when Vincent does it, and she just immediately comes back up, and the humorous moment when they go, say something. She just goes, something. Really good. Just like the little comedic flair at the end, just, all the tension is resolved. And then just that shot of them in the car as they're driving, they just don't say anything. And she just looks like a complete mess, and just absolutely masterclass of a scene. And it's just just a really great scene that I think it's maybe my favorite scene from Pulp Fiction. Just everything about it is just like really, really well done, and it shows why Tarantino is a master of filmmaking.
Yeah, I love that build up, with him in the bathroom, like talking himself out of, putting the moves on her. And then he comes out, like, you don't see him. It just, you just look, Mia, I gotta go. And she's laying there, drooling everything. And he's like, he freaks out. And then I love when the moment where there's so many like great comedic moments in this when he's dragging her in, and that's like, you gotta get off my lawn. And he just stops and drops her. And he's like, you know whose wife this is? And she just, you just hear that like that dead weight drop. It's so great. And then, the whole interaction between like all the chaos in the house, and Lance and his wife. Which Arquette is that? I always forget which one is that.
Rosanna.
I think I can't keep them straight. Rosanna Arquette. The two of them fighting and yelling. But then they have that scene where he has the the needle up, and they're zooming in on all the faces, and they zoom on her, and she is just so into it, like she's so excited. And then he finally does it, and she's like, "That was trippy." Like I just love just everybody is like like I said, the comedic timing in that scene is so good, and that's what Tarantino does so well. That he's mixing that like violence and like near death with comedy. So yeah, this is a really great scene. Everybody else, I know you all seen Pulp Fiction. This scene wasn't on your list. Was it considered?
No, it wasn't. I actually, spoiler alert, I don't have any Pulp Fiction scenes on my list, which probably a bit of a surprise. Probably should have had one, but it probably wouldn't have been this one, although it's great. I mean, there's so many great scenes in this movie. One of my favorite lines in the whole movie is when he's like showing him what to do with the syringe, and he's like, and then what happens after that, after I stab her? And Eric Stoltz just like, I'm kind of curious about that myself. It's a very funny line. And yeah, just the tension in it is amazing. So it's definitely a solid pick. I mean, pretty much any scene from this movie except the Potbelly scene would be a good pick.
There's a scene from Pulp Fiction. This isn't it.
Oh, sorry. I was going to mention it, but Michael also mentioned the Toto song.
But overall, it's a great scene. It's a great scene. There's a lot you can choose from Pulp Fiction, so that's why I was very like. Now knowing you, there'll be 12 other ones, but for me, I only allowed the max of 2, so this is a really good choice.
I wish, Cody. I wish.
Yeah.
Sorry, not enough room for those too much Spider-Man.
Yeah, this scene's great. It was briefly considered for my list among a lot of other scenes from Pulp Fiction, but I didn't put it on. So maybe I'll have one later, maybe not. Who knows? Good pick, though.
All right. That was 64, so we're back up to 67 with Scott. Scott, what you say?
Right. It's another Tarantino scene, although I think this is probably going to be a yikes. This is the opening scene from Inglourious Bastards.
Yikes.
Yeah, I knew it. I fucking knew it.
Okay, that's fine. 66, I have a scene from Boogie Nights. This is the drug deal scene from Boogie Nights. Yeah, that right there sums up what makes the scene amazing. So I appreciate the banner. But yes, this is one of the climactic scenes of the movie when Eddie and Todd and I forget who else, but they've gone over to this. I guess John C. Reilly's character as well. They've gone over to this drug dealer's house, played by Alfred Molina, and they're going to sell him some not actual cocaine, but what he thinks is cocaine, and they're going to get some money because they're struggling because their music video has shockingly bombed. But it turns into just like this chaotic, like truly chaotic, like set piece almost, where it just keeps getting increasingly tense. Even though like nothing is really sort of changing about the scene, you have this Chinese guy in the corner just shooting off firecrackers the entire time, which is just increasing the tension. Even though he's not aiming them at anyone, he's not trying to hurt anyone. It's just like the constant sound of the firecrackers going off in the back just amps it up. Then you have Alfred Molina being like a psycho, and in one regard being very like gregarious and friendly and everything, but also like just something he seems to have a screw loose. And then of course, yeah, you have the music, which one of the great things about this movie is like you always have like the super sounds of the 70s going on the whole time, even when there's like dark stuff happening in the movie. Like it gets very sort of it's a great contrast throughout the entire movie that also really captures the time period. And here, this is like the perfect example. It starts off with Sister Christian, right? And then it works its way up to Jesse's Girl when it, stuff starts going down. And then, it finally all kicks off when Thomas Jane's character, is like not content with the money that he's handed over, and he wants the money that's in the safe. And then, he pulls out the gun and, it turns into a gunfight, and Alfred Molina chases them out of the house and everything. But yeah, Alfred Molina, it's like one of the all-time great one-scene performances in a movie. He just shows up and just like owns this scene in a movie where like it's easy for people to get like lost in the ensemble because it's so large. But yeah, this scene is everything that Paul Thomas Anderson does like so well. The like blending of comedy and tension is just so like masterful.
Yeah, I love Molina in this. He's so good in that robe and just that mustache and like getting all excited about the song. But yeah, just kind of like what I was saying about the Pulp Fiction scene. It's kind of crazy that they're getting. This isn't the low moment, but they're getting very close to his their low moment here, and the movie's getting really dark, and then you put in this scene that is just like straight up hilarious. You put this character in, and there's all this crazy stuff going on, and like you said, there's robbery, and there's drugs, and there's shooting, and it should be like a very like scary dark scene. But with Molina's performance and with the music and everything else, it's great. It's hilarious. So yeah, this is one of the first things I think about when I think about Boogie Nights. And Boogie Nights is probably still my favorite PTA. Everybody else on the Alfred Molina scene from Boogie Nights.
So I originally had this on my top 100, and then through moving stuff around and having other scenes that I wanted to add on, I had to remove the scene. Unfortunately, I love Alfred Molina for many, many reasons, but one specific reason, I have to say it, but he had 4 tentacles and played a villain in Spider-Man. Anyway, but this is a great scene.
Did he play Davy Jones?
Yes, yeah. Everyone thought Bill Nye did, but it was
He was in My Octopus Teacher. Yeah.
My Octopus. Oh god. Yeah, this is a great scene, and this is like if we ever had like an Oscar category for like one scene stealers, like Alfred Molina would win in '97 because it's just a fantastic way. You just even if you know who he is and you just watching the movie and not knowing that he's in it, because I don't think the movie's really advertised with him in it. You just see him show up and you go, "Oh shit, it's the guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark." And then he has the whole scene. He just sings Jesse's Girl, and it's just like, just great stuff. And then that whole shootout that happens. I really wanted to have it on my top 100, but there were just other scenes. I had to include another Spider-Man scene. So it's just like things just happen. You have to just deal with it. But yeah, no, this is a fantastic scene.
So, I've seen 30 minutes of this movie. I keep meaning to go back to it. It's just, I don't know why I didn't finish it. I just didn't. However, I didn't get to this scene, but I can say with 100% certainty that scene is better than anything in Hulk or Venom. So
wow, I just had to get just a jab at me there. Well, this is fine. Yeah. Okay.
Boom. Roasted.
Jack isn't the Jack on the panel anymore, so he's feeling he can throw some.
He acts like the last top 100. He didn't have Hugh Jackman in Bad Education at 38. Listen, he sits there and just like
50 Lord of the Rings.
He sits there he starts with, "I've only seen 30 minutes of this film, haven't seen it," and goes on to a rant. Shut up and move along. Good Lord. My thing is, I've seen this movie one time. I really need to watch it again. I liked it the first time I watched it. I just have not watched it since. So I replayed part of the scene while you were talking, and I know exactly what you're talking about, but I haven't seen it in a long time. So good choice from a PTA that I like.
Only PTA. That's so good.
No,
you like that movie, Bob. You like that.
I like it a lot. I like 4 or 5. Just not as stupid ones.
All right, Scott, what you got next?
This might be another yikes. It's the opening of Scream.
Yikes.
All right. And my 64, we're moving along here. One of the most iconic scenes in film history, probably. It is Lloyd Dobler.
Jack will probably have it.
Holding the boombox from Say Anything.
Oh.
Good choice.
Yeah, one of my favorite movies. Maybe like the quintessential teen romance movie to me. I know Kirk hates it, so I'm probably going to catch some flack here. But anyway, the scene is iconic for a reason. This is one of those, right? It pops up on the lists like Cody's been talking about the whole time. But when you actually watch the movie, it's like, I get it. Like it earns it. It earns its spot as being iconic. This is basically when Diane has dumped Lloyd at her father's behest, and he doesn't really know what to do with himself. His buddies are like, "You got to go be a man, right? You gotta get her back." And so he goes to her house, in the middle of the night, not quite the middle of the night because it's still kind of light outside, but holds his boombox up, playing "In Your Eyes" by Peter Gabriel. Perfect song for the moment. Like I don't know how long like Cameron Crowe, thought about what song to pick for that scene, but he got it right. And honestly, he obviously knows music because he wrote for Rolling Stone, so he may have nailed it. But it's not a surprise that he nailed it. Basically, I guess is what I'm saying. But it's just an amazing moment of like they're teenagers, and like the only way that he can think to express his feelings at that time is the song and the boombox, and it's such a great pure moment of like, I'm here, I'm doing it, I'm coming to get you back. Like this is me. I'm putting it all out there, and it's hard not to be charmed by that. I mean, Lloyd is one of my favorite film characters in general, and this is just like one of the quintessential romantic scenes to me. So it had to make my list.
Kill him, Kirk.
All right. Well, again, we're talking scenes, not movies.
Oh God.
So I won't go into detail what a pathetic loser Lloyd is and how he's going to ruin that poor girl's life. But this scene, it is iconic, but like it's been a while since I watched it. Like, doesn't she just kind of ignore him and he goes away? Like, this isn't the moment where like she's like, oh, it comes out, like they get back together. Like it just happens and then nothing happens after that. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, they do eventually get back. After it's not immediate. Yes, but it's like it's obviously starting her back on the path to.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, it's the iconic '80s. That's when you watch a something about '80s movies, you're going to see this clip in there. That's fine. Again, I'm trying to discourage you guys from getting too deep in the movies in general. We're just talking about the scene, so I'm not going to go on to say anything. Right? Anybody have anything to say about the boombox scene?
I haven't seen it.
Definitely iconic. Definitely like understand if you have like a special grasp to this movie. I understand why this is the pick. I haven't seen anything in a while, but again, you mentioned boombox. If you said think of a scene with boombox, it's the instant one that I would go to. Like it's the moment. Like so, it has that pull factor, and I think it's a good scene overall.
The bus scene on Star Trek 4.
Close. That'd be second.
I haven't seen the movie, but I have seen the scene. "In Your Eyes" is like one of my favorite songs, like ever. That was in my top 5 most listened to songs last year on Spotify. My friend Andrew owns the album, so that was cool to like listen to that. But yeah, I mean the scene's like iconic. That shot of him just holding up the boombox is just like is part of film history. So much so that Deadpool 2 had to like ruin the scene by referencing it. But outside that, it's a good scene, good song.
All right. Was that your 64?
Yeah, we're moving back, Jack.
All right, Jack. Top 3 for the night. 63.
Right. My 63 is "I Believe in America" from The Godfather. No yikes.
I can't wait to see this butcher job. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no. Easily one of the greatest scenes, or easily one of the greatest opening scenes of all time to a film. First time I saw this film was in the hospital, and I finally had time to sit down and watch this movie, and this scene plays, and I was in from the first second. It's brilliant. The introduction to Vito Corleone as a character is perfect. I can't talk highly enough about the scene. That's been talked to death, especially on the show, so I won't say too much about it. And other than great moment. And I haven't seen The Godfather a whole lot in my life, but this scene still is. I can watch the scene at any moment. It's great.
All right.
That's textbook pandering.
No, this scene.
It's a pandering shit show.
I'm really surprised. Well, I mean, I'm surprised certain people here didn't have it, even not pandering, because it's a good scene. This is pandering. If it's pandering, it's done for the greater good. No, I think this scene is just a perfect way to open this movie. You have the character who's like explaining why he's trying to make his way in America the American way, but ultimately that doesn't work, and he has to go back to the old way of doing things to get the results he wants. And I think that perfectly foreshadows, Michael's journey and the family's journey, and just that idea of who Vito is. Is like that is not justice. Your daughter is still alive, and we're not murderers, despite what this Undertaker thinks. I think it's just such a great way to introduce this world in a movie with a cast of thousands. You go from this right to that huge wedding scene with all those people. I think this is a great small way to tell you everything you're going to be getting with this movie, with these stories, with these characters. Cody, do you want to go first? Last, you seem to have a lot to say.
Yes, I want to go first. Did you pick the scene or did Jack pick the scene? Because you just talked about more intelligent, about why this scene should be on this list than the man himself. All he did was, this scene's been talked about a lot. I'm not gonna waste a lot of time. I'm just gonna tell you and then offers it up like that. This is Kirk's pick over your pick. I don't even know if you've seen this scene because you didn't talk about it at all. Second, Kirk, I want this on the record. No, you're done talking. We're done. We're done speaking, Jack.
Emotional, damn it.
Second on this thing, Kirk, I want this on the record. Do you remember when he started this list? He said, and I quote, that I will only have one scene per movie. And he picked this is the one scene from The Godfather? And I know that is crazy. That is absolutely... I picked two scenes, and I couldn't even have this one there. This scene sets everything up. It's a beautiful introduction. I would have given him a full pass if he actually talked about it passionately. You're the one that talked about it passionately. This is no longer his pick. He has no claim on this. It's like picking, you pick a great scene from a movie and be like, oh, God. Well, for example, we didn't talk about the opening of the thing, and he was like, this has been talked about, but I put it there. What? No happiness, no joy of putting it. And he put it at 63. The only scene from The Godfather is at 63. What a joke, Jack. You know what? I know you Googled the list. You should have at least arranged it better, because this is trash. Watch the scene before you talk about it.
Could you guys imagine if Cody was actually feeling feisty tonight? What would have happened?
Jack pisses me off to a scary degree.
Does anyone remember when I said I wasn't going to talk much because I wasn't feeling well, or did I not say that?
Jack,
why'd you sign up for the list? You haven't talked all 4 episodes.
All right. Scott,
it's
go ahead.
a good scene. It's not crazy to have it on the list. Even if you're just picking one scene, I don't think it's crazy to have, because I think you could pick 80% of the scenes from The Godfather. And honestly, that's why I struggled. Obviously, I had one earlier in the episode that got yikes. But I didn't want to just pick 5 scenes from The Godfather. So I had to be choosy. I picked the one that I picked earlier. I certainly think I agree with what everyone says here. It's a perfect way to set up the movie, set up the character of Vito. And just some of the lines are just ingrained in my head forever. Just they beat her like an animal. Just the delivery and everything. Yeah. And now I have the wedding music stuck in my head, so thanks for that. But yeah, it's a great scene.
This is a great scene. I think, I kind of disagree with Cody. There are 20 scenes that I would be. You could pick any of them and be like, this is the best scene in Godfather, and you could definitely argue why it is. There are many great scenes from The Godfather. There's a reason why it's one of the greatest movies.
There's a correct, and if there's an argument, there's correct.
Many great scenes. You can't be this scene's okay. This scene is great. This is one of the greatest openings ever. If we were doing top 100 greatest scenes of all time, we're doing just completely objective, no favorites. I would absolutely include this scene on my top 100. But we're doing favorites. There's a lot of scenes that I really, really like. A lot more because of other reasons. That's not just the objectivity of the best scenes of all time. But it's a great scene. And I do think that some of the best scenes, or a great scene, can just be two people talking, and it can be just about a story, a film telling a story in the movie. I think that's really cool, and I just like the idea of that being the opening to this movie. And I just love the first lines is "I believe in America." That's sort of the whole mantra of the Godfather trilogy in the sense. This is a great scene, and I do like the scene a lot. I don't know if it's my favorite scene from The Godfather, but it's definitely up there.
All right, Cody, pull it up with your 63.
Okay. My 63 is Patty screaming Moby Dick in Warrior. So this is overall. This is like has a personal connection with me more than anything. Basically, the Warrior, two brothers, basically pushed out. Like their dad was not a dad figure. Dad, very substance abuse, did not treat them the best. Basically, there's hints or whatever of physical like violence towards them. And he is on he's on a recovery path to bring that back. He is very he like shows up. He shows up like at one of the brothers' houses. Like, those are my grandkids. Can I talk to them? Those doors have been closed. You know, you can write a letter. You can do everything. You can do anything. He starts to build back this with Tommy, which is played by Tom Hardy. He's trying to build back this relationship with him, but Tom wants absolutely nothing to do with him. Overall, they end up staying together, like at this title, like this fight, basically inside the hotel together as he's living with them. Tommy's woken up to Patty screaming, basically Moby Dick, is one of his things. He's like audiobooks listening to stuff, and he's you get that, you stop that ship. I don't know the exact curse word he uses, but he like basically is cussing and screaming in the veins, Nick Nolte like, screaming. And Tommy consoles him, holds him while he's going through it. He breaks his sobriety. He's completely hammered. He's completely drunk, and he actually consoles him and holds him like as he calms down. I think it's a brilliant scene. I think it's absolutely one of the like most like an underrated scene from this movie, and deals with such like a emotional level of like somebody. I think for somebody that's seen substance abuse and has dealt with stuff myself, to see that level and how he plays it, I think is a brilliant performance. So yeah.
Yeah, been a while since I saw Warrior. This isn't the scene I remember. This isn't the scene between these two characters I remember. Rewatching it is a powerful scene, especially you said within that context. But like I said, I think there's just scenes like character moments and relationship moments in this movie I like a little better. Everybody else on who's seen Warrior and who has comments on the scene?
I haven't seen the movie.
Still haven't seen it either.
I've seen this movie. I think it's fantastic. I know there's a list of movies that get sort of beaten to death in the community, but this is one where I'm absolutely okay being talked about forever because I do think this is a fantastic movie. And I do love Nick Nolte. There's one specific reason why. Maybe later down the list for some other reason. But he is just like really great in this scene, and there's a reason why he got the supporting actor nod for Warrior. And I just also just like the whole just like that sort of like he's trying to be better. Like the whole movie for him is redemption, and then this is sort of him where he's just like I can't like do this, and finally he has that moment with Tom Hardy, which is like really beautiful. So yeah, I totally get this being on Cody's list.
All right. Jake, give us your number 63.
So it's been a hot second since we've had a Spider-Man scene on my list. So we're going to go back to that and I'm going with just a really small, simple scene that is Uncle Ben's death from the first Spider-Man. I know it's pretty short. It's only like 2 minutes long, but the whole build-up from Peter letting the carjacker, he lets Dennis Carradine, the carjacker, away from the wrestling stadium because he didn't get the money that he wanted. He wanted $3,000. He gave him $100. He lets him go. This whole moment where he just like, you see it in his eyes where he's like the anger and lets him go. He goes, thanks. Goes down the elevator. And then he says the exact same thing to the wrestling guy that he said to him. I missed the part where that's my problem. That's just great recurring line where it's just like, yeah, now I feel something. I feel a little bit better because of what just happened. And as he's going to wait for Uncle Ben, he sees a crowd of people, goes through it, and then realizes it's Uncle Ben and he's been shot. And then you have a whole moment where he just like tries to get his attention, says Uncle Ben. And they had that whole argument before in the car where he's like, I know I'm not your father. And then Peter's like, stop pretending to be. Like they have that whole argument. And that really like hurt Uncle Ben. You see it in his eyes, and then this moment where he doesn't really get to apologize. He doesn't get this that closure that he gets to have, and all Uncle Ben can say is Peter, and you can see him just crying and just like about to fade, and then he just like the arm just drops, and I just I lose it at that scene. When I was a kid, that just brutally attacked me emotionally. And the Danny Elfman score really helps with that, and just like the strings, and then like just the stops, and then that's when like it's mean to death, but Toby's face when he's like crying is like kind of mean, but I think it's really powerful and it's brutal. And then he goes from sorrow to anger and then hatred when he realizes that the carjacker is in Uncle Ben's car and he's been on whatever street, and then the music changes and he just starts getting up and he just walks away, and that's it. Absolutely powerful, just like an emotional scene that really gets to me. I had to include this scene just for obvious reasons, but it's just very powerful for me.
Yeah, it's hard not to think of this scene and just think of Maguire ugly crying. That kind of puts a damper on the whole thing. But no, like it is a good. I mean, for the fact that for in a Spider-Man movie, I mean, used to anyway. You don't anymore, but there are certain beats you have to hit to tell the Spider-Man story, and I think it does this well. Unfortunately, Spider-Man 3 kind of just ruins. Like, oh, it wasn't that guy after all.
No context of Spider-Man 3. We're just looking at this.
Completely destroys Spider-Man's motivation for being Spider-Man.
That's like monumentally fuck up this whole movie. But yeah.
But no, like I said, as far as Spider-Man scenes go, this one is that bad. Everybody else on Uncle Ben's death, because I know you all see this one.
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's one of the saddest movie deaths in film history, and it's going to be disrespected by the bots entering the chat right now. I mean, come on, read the room, guys. We're talking about a great man dying here. But no, it is. I mean, Cliff Robertson, again, is great in like a very short amount of screen time. Definitely, one of those roles where you make the most of a short amount of screen time. And yeah, like Jake said, the most brutal part of it is knowing that the last real conversation that they have was a fight in which Peter said something that he regrets, and Uncle Ben was genuinely wounded by it. And you just don't get that sort of sincerity and heart and emotion in 95% of comic book films.
Yeah, no, this scene's great. Great moment from the trilogy, and probably not the moment I'd pick from the first film, but still solid choice. So good job.
Said more about that than Godfather. Anyways, Uncle Ben's death, great choice. Again, I didn't have to include any Spider-Man. I do consider the two first of the Raimi trilogies like some of my favorite movies of all time. But with Jake, I don't have to worry about that. This is like everything that plays into that scene and everything like the stuff that leads into the scene. I think of and stop trying to be the stopping the car and then realizing, and then the final moments. It's just, as a kid, wrecked me. As an adult, on the right given day, wrecks me. So great choice on Uncle Ben's death. Like, can't have Spider-Man without somebody dying. Like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
All right, that takes us to Scott, and Scott's number 63.
Talking of scenes that wreck me, number 63, the ending from The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Yikes. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this movie was very important to me when it came out. As again, I think it was to a lot of people in my age range. And though I don't watch it as much or talk about it as much, or it probably doesn't mean as much to me today as it did then, it will always be one of my favorite movies because of that. I will never lose that because of what it meant to me at the time. And this scene, I watched it today. It still hits. This is basically after Charlie has just had like his nervous breakdown, and he's overcome it. He was in the hospital. He's overcome it now. He's doing a lot better. Sam and why can't Patrick? I blanked on Ezra Miller's name for a second. Just probably tried to erase them from my mind. But
Understandable.
they've come home, and they go to King's, and they are sitting there, and Sam says, "Oh, my roommate has the best taste in music. We found the tunnel song," ignoring, of course, the plot hole. They should have known what the song was the entire movie. Then they get in the truck and they drive through the tunnel, and the song is playing. What it's not quite playing, you don't hear it yet, but Charlie has that monologue as they're going through the tunnel that I think is just very beautifully written, like about perfectly encapsulating like being a teenager, wanting to experience these moments as they are happening. Someday they are just going to be memories, but now they are like actually happening, and these experiences are real, and you want to savor that while you are still feeling those feelings so deeply. And it just concludes with this is it's a dark movie, it's a sad movie at times, but it concludes with a very euphoric and hopeful moment of him extending his arms as they come out of the tunnel, and the song kicks in. The intro of the song kicks in. It's just like one of those hell yeah moments. And of course, the best part of all, Kirk, is that they're exiting the tunnel towards Pittsburgh. So there you have it.
Yeah, I don't know how you didn't get the pandering clip for that.
That's textbook pandering.
Yeah, going through the 4-pit tunnels. That
Koho's a corpse.
I've been through it. Yeah, I've been through the tunnel.
Did you play the song?
No, because I didn't realize that I was going through it until after I got out, and I was like, "Oh no!"
Done that
hey Todd, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, I believe.
Next time you come to Todd, we'll do that.
I will.
I did it for Spence. I'll do it for you too.
Okay.
But no.
Jesus Christ.
But no, it's a great scene. And I think going back to I don't know why this clicks with me a little bit more, but I feel like what you guys are saying about the pool scene from Booksmart. I think this kind of has the same feel of like him coming into his own and that experiencing that freedom. So I think it's great. I think it's a great ending and a great callback to the earlier scene where it was him watching somebody and like just his kind of being enamored with her. But I think it's just the whole thing is like he's not just enamored with her, he's enamored with her, the way she's able to live her life. And now he's able to do that too. So I think like, just like everything he's been through for him to have that victory, again, coming out in one of the greatest cityscape skyline in America. I'll say it. Great scene. Everybody else on Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Haven't seen it. Sorry, Spence. Sorry, Scott.
I'm shocked.
I've seen the movie, but it was on the background, so I never really paid too much attention to the movie. It was a bit of a disservice. I'm not gonna lie. I do want to actually watch the movie, but that's.
I wish the movie lived up to the beautiful skyline of Pittsburgh, of how brilliant that city is, and the people.
That's textbook pandering.
Yes.
I just don't believe the movie deserves Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh is too good for this movie. So overall, never clicked for me. I think the scene is good overall, but overall the movie just, you're right. I was the wrong age group for this. I think it just didn't click for me.
I was a senior in high school, so I could not have been a more perfect age for this movie at the time.
True.
All right, Jack, number 62.
All right, my number 62. Scott, I'm sorry I misunderstood what scene you were talking about when you brought it up, but it's not the night scene, it's the jazz club from Collateral.
Oh, okay.
That was actually.
So my apologies.
I guess I should go back and talk about my scene.
Yeah, if you want to talk about your scene, go ahead.
Oh, do you want me to go ahead and do it?
Yeah, go ahead and do yours now, Scott.
Okay. Yeah, I had the nightclub scene. This is where they actually go into where the everyone's dancing and Vincent goes in there. And yeah, I just think the scene, I didn't rewatch it because I wasn't prepared, but I think the scene is like a masterclass in editing and sound design, like the music that is constantly playing throughout the scene, like the sound mixing and editing. Again, just kind of adds to the chaos that is going on in the scene. And there's so many people, and Vincent is like this calculating killer, obviously, but he's in the midst of chaos. And finally, when the shooting starts, it's like, what is going to happen here? Because there's all these people, they're all trying to get away. It's just completely frenetic. But Michael Mann does such a great job of keeping you in the moment, like helping you understand where everyone is, what's going on. It's a brilliant set piece, and again, from a technical perspective, like it's flawless.
All right, and I have to apologize because I was confused about the scenes too, so I didn't rewatch it because Jake, which one are you guys seen?
I had the Miles Davis scene. I think Jack and I had the same.
The one that I actually had.
So okay,
yeah.
Did anybody else want to say anything about Scott's scene?
I like the scene. It's definitely like the best shootout. Like one of the best shootouts ever. I think John Wick's maybe like just over it, but like this, yeah, it's a really great scene. I think it's got Ready, Set, Go. I can't remember the song. William Orbit,
Yeah,
maybe.
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, just really just like, yeah, Michael Mann just understands like sound design and editing, like almost no other filmmaker. Really fantastic stuff. And just the way that it doesn't feel showy in the film sort of sense, like it feels really grounded in the sense that, I mean, Tom Cruise is an expert when it comes to action scenes, and the way he's able to just shoot and feels real calculated, and the way an actual killer would actually be in real life, he really like just captures that sort of essence. So yeah, I think this is a great action scene.
Yeah, no, this scene's great. One of the best scenes in the film, though, the scene I picked is the one that I prefer. So then, do I just talk about that one now?
No, because Jake takes that one.
No, Jack yikes
Jack
it from
yikes
me
it
earlier today because it was my 68.
Okay, all right, okay, good. Okay, I'm sorry. Then go ahead, Jack. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this scene is brilliant. I won't talk too long about this one either, but Tom Cruise, this is the moment where you get to finally sit down with Tom Cruise. Like, he doesn't just go for he doesn't just do his job right away. He actually sits down, like Max talks him to, and asks him to, and talks to the person that he's supposed to kill, and he makes him a deal where if he answers a question correctly, then he'll let the guy live. And the back and forth between Tom Cruise and the other guy whose name escapes me at the moment is brilliant. Thank you. Fantastic moment. Jake, you can take it away from here.
Yeah, this is. I felt when I rewatched this movie this year, and when this scene happened, I thought this is the best scene in the movie. It's the second best scene in the movie. We'll get to the best scene later, maybe next week, I think. But this is just perfect in the sense that Vincent at this point has killed two people, and Max is just distraught over just like what's going on in the situation that he's in. And you think, oh, okay, this is just like a sign of brevity, like just going to a jazz club, just going to listen to nice music, and Vincent's telling him like improvisational, just like the way jazz is. And you think, oh, he's a big fan. And it really like it leans into it like a sense of comfort in the idea of they're just going to hang out, and he's talking to the owner of the jazz club, which is Barry Shabaka Henry. He's playing the trumpet, and they're having this whole talk about Miles Davis, and he has this story where he's just like, yeah, Miles came in, and then someone came up and said like, hey, can I play with you? And he's like, get your ass down and just like tell me when you're ready. And then talks about this whole story about how he played with Miles Davis, and all the word he said was cool, which didn't mean great, it just meant not ready. So find me when you get ready. And he tells his whole story of how he got drafted and then this whole situation. And then Tom Cruise just goes, I got to tell the people in Kulakan and Cartagena. And then Barry Shabaka Henry's just like his shift in character. He realizes, oh, wait a minute. And we don't get the full backstory on what's going on. We just know that something had happened. And then that just shifts. The camera starts moving. And Max at this point still has no idea what's going on. But then he slowly realizes, oh, wait a minute. This is another hit. And then he's, like Jack was saying, he asks, I'm going to ask you a jazz question, okay? And tells me, like, where did Miles Davis learn music? And then he has to tell me, he's like, I know everything about Miles Davis. And then like, his father was a dentist, and then he went to Juilliard. And then he says something, I can't remember the exact specific detail, but then at that point, you think it's right. Like, he just knows everything. And Max is like, yeah, he got it right. And then Vincent just shoots him like 3 times in the head with a silencer. And then he says, like, you just mentioned one small thing that was just wrong. That wasn't accurate. And that was it. And it almost feels like Vincent was always going to kill him anyway. But he just wanted a reason. Like, he just wanted to see what he would say. and it's just a perfect scene that just completely comes out of nowhere in the way that the rest of the movie plays out. It's just like you think this is just a scene for comfort, but no, it just goes somewhere else completely. This is just fantastic. This is my favorite Michael Mann movie, and I'm going to add this to my top 100.
And I apologize, guys. I was confused about what scenes we're talking about today, so I didn't rewatch either of these. It's been a while since I see this movie, so I really can't say much. But Scott, you had another scene for this movie. Cody, you have so far had none. What are your thoughts on this scene?
It's great. This is probably like my would have been my second pick from the movie. Just really embodies the ruthlessness of Vincent, of Tom Cruise's character. And the slow build up really makes the scene, as a contrast to mine, where it's just, frenetic again, just constant noise and action and energy going on.
I need to revisit this movie. I haven't seen it in a while. Best Michael Mann? No. Yeah. But well, yeah, clearly you like people in a porta potty. That tells us a lot. Overall, people don't forget. Yes, but the Jazz Club is when he described it is exactly what came back to me from this movie. The first Scott one didn't right away, so I think correct. But I'm surprised that Jake had this lower than Jack because Jake was more passionate about it. It's weird. But anyway, we'll move on.
All right, Cody, what is your number 62?
I don't know how to describe this, but it's the dinner scene from Sicario. The ending, basically. Benicio del Toro's character goes into the house. This scene is if you have not seen this movie, I suggest definitely not listening. Because it kind of like gives away the entire thing of Sicario. But basically, Benicio del Toro goes into the man's house. I can't quite remember like the relation. Like he's the leader of the cartel like thing, and he's to hunt down. I think he's responsible for somebody that was maybe a little bit better, like killing his family or something associated with that.
Wife and daughter.
Wife and daughter. So he basically comes in and guns down people inside the house. And then the dinner scene basically takes place. He shows up with a gun. His two kids, his wife, and him are there. And he's like, no, eat. Like, don't stop. Just continue your family dinner. And like this, the thing about Sicario is I think it's just brilliant is the suspense it's able to create. Like the uncomfortable, like can't hardly breathe watching the movie on certain parts. And this is like the most, like, especially if you have kids or anything, it's one of the hardest scenes to watch. But when I describe it, you have to have it. So basically, he sits down and he's having this conversation with the guy and telling him, Joe, just enjoy your life. Just keep going. Like, nothing's happening. But he's got a gun pointed at him and his kids and them are having conversations. As the conversation goes, at one point, you hear 3 bullets. You just see the gun, boom, boom, boom. And his wife and 2 kids fall at the table and he kills both. And, like, he keeps it until he finally ends him. And he reveals everything in the story. I just think it's absolutely just brilliant, uncomfortable. Like, I think it's just an amazing, amazing part of that movie. There's another scene from Sicario that I considered, but when I boiled it down, this is the one that makes me the most, like, pit of my stomach, just uncomfortable. And it's the way he shoots it and the way, not over violence, not over it, just in your face, like, brilliant. So, no brainer. Dinner scene from Sicario.
Yeah, this is like a great chickens coming home to roost scene. Like the lead up where he's walking through. I love how he's like shooting the like bodyguards, and he walks through the kitchen, and the one servant's there, and they just kind of look at each other, and she just stands there, doesn't say a word, and he just walks by her, and then he goes out to the where they're eating, and then he sits down, and my favorite moment in the scene is when, because he says they speak in English because the kids don't understand English, but the husband, the cartel leader and his wife do. So they're talking, and the guy's saying, no, the guy's trying to talk, basically trying to talk him out of it. He's like, do you think this is going to be your wife back? Bring your wife back? And Benicio del Toro says, don't forget my daughter. As soon as he says that, the wife breaks. She starts crying. Like she figured out. She knows what's happening. The husband he thinks he's getting it. He thinks his family's safe. But as soon as he says my daughter, it clicks for the wife, and she just starts crying. And then it's like and then and he's like, not in front of my boys. And he thinks, okay, I got to take my medicine here, but my family's safe. You just hear that pop pop pop, and you hear the bodies drop, and the guy's like shocked, like he couldn't, because at first I thought that he knew that they were all dead, but when they all get shot, he's like literally surprised. He's like really surprised that he did that, and then he's like, go ahead and finish your meal, and he just pops them. And it's one of those things where it's like it's so hard because you realize like what Del Toro's character has been through, but at the same time, it's like he's going to kill these 3 innocent people, and it just you're so conflicted watching it because like what would I do in that situation? How would I feel? It's so like what he's doing wrong, but you understand fully why he's doing it, and it's almost like one of those things where, like I said, just chickens coming home to roost. Real powerful scene. Anybody else got comments on this one?
Yeah, this scene is fantastic. One of my favorite scenes from the film. However, there's at least 1 or 2 more that I like more than that, and we may see those later. So, good pick, Cody.
This is a movie that's been on my rewatch list for a long time because when it first came out, I was very mixed on it. And I'm not really sure why, because I like pretty much all of Denis Villeneuve's other movies. So I feel like it's one where I could have a change of heart. But I just don't remember too much about it to comment on it, to be honest.
I like this scene. I like the movie. I haven't seen it since the cinemas. Weirdly enough, I saw this movie on the last day of high school, so that's how I remember watching this movie. But I haven't seen it since then, so I can't really comment much. But this is a great scene. I do remember that. Just very brutal movie as well. Just this whole movie just does not leave anything to the imagination.
All right, Jake. 62 for you.
I got a question for everyone. What's the most you ever lost in a coin toss?
Yikes.
Coin toss syndrome. Figure. Yeah.
All right, Scott, you're 62.
All right, probably not the scene that most people would pick from this movie, but it's actually my favorite scene from the movie. I picked the library scene from Philadelphia. There's one other scene that I think is a little bit more of a standout here, but I watched this movie for the first time finally this year, and I thought it was great. I think it definitely lives up to the hype. And this scene, I love. Again, I love scenes where a lot is going on under the surface, apart from what is being said. That's definitely this scene. Tom Hanks, Andrew is in the library. He's requested a bunch of books about HIV, about AIDS, and one of the library attendants comes to bring him the books, and it becomes clear that Tom Hanks is suffering from HIV, and the library attendant is kind of like, are you sure you don't want to go in a private room? And he's like, no. And we get a bunch of shots of like the other people in the library looking really uncomfortable being around him, and then we just have Denzel Washington's character. And what is sort of underscoring the whole scene is that he too has experienced his own form of ostracism in a way, right, as a Black man. And so that the similar feelings, he recognizes, the same sort of thing going on with the way that people are treating Tom Hanks's character. And so he comes to the rescue, so to speak, and, strikes up a conversation with him that kind of scares everyone else off. And they proceed to have a conversation, because up until this point, they've kind of been at odds with each other. But this is kind of the moment where they start to mutually respect each other, and it leads to the relationship that they have over the course of the movie. But just again, that under the surface layer of these two people who have been sort of cast out by society for different reasons, like coming together, and finding a shared bond over that experience. It's the type of scene that would be a throwaway if you had a lesser filmmaker, or lesser performers involved in the scene, but that's not the case with Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised you picked this one. It's not a bad scene, but like you said, it's setting things up for the rest of the movie. And I think it's setting things up that happen in better scenes. I think there's better scenes of him experiencing, prejudice. I think there's better scenes of, their relationship developing. And like I said, I think this scene's setting a lot of groundwork. But I just think as far as just memorable scenes in the movie, I think there are a lot, ones that do everything this one does better. Anybody else who's seen Philadelphia and who's got stuff to say about the scene?
Yeah, I like this movie a lot. This is not the scene I was expecting. There's a couple of scenes. I won't spoil, but there are other scenes I was expecting. I had to actually, when you were saying it, I had to remember what the scene was. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. But there's a sort of, I do like the idea of that both these characters have a sort of a connection, that they realize that they should team up. And even though Denzel still is not really fully with the whole HIV, he still has his distance with Andrew. There is sort of a mutual respect in the sense of I understand where you're coming from.
You are a human being,
yeah. And yeah, it is a great movie, and I really do like it. It's probably one of my favorite Demi movies. But this is just a scene I wasn't fully expecting. To be like, oh yeah. Wouldn't be my pick, but I do think it is a solid scene for sure.
Yeah, definitely a great moment. Not the scene I would have gone with. There's two I can think of off the top of my head that I do like a good deal more. The one of the court scenes and the opera scene, like the record player scene. I think it's been a while since I've seen the movie, so I didn't include any moments, but good pick.
Kirk, weren't you going to tell him that this is like an after-school special, kind of film that,
We're talking about scenes, Cody. We're not talking about movies.
Well, the scene is shot from an after-school, it's a scene from an after-school special. That's what I was famously told in a top 100. I was just trying to keep consistency. It's not a big deal.
I didn't rave about the scene, did I?
That's true. That's also very true. I like what Scott did actually. You picked the scene kind of like what I did during scenes. There are the big scenes, like the scenes that everybody thinks of, but then the lesser known ones that still have impact. I think this is a really great scene to pick. It's one of my favorite scenes from the movie. So if I was to pick one from Philadelphia, I probably would have went with this one as well. Just because it's one of the lesser scenes from the film. But there's so many character moments inside this scene. So good choice, Scott.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to our final picks of the night. Jack, hit us with your 61.
All right. My 61. I'll talk a little longer for this one, I swear.
Oh, thank you.
I know. It's the end, or the I want to live scene from It's a Wonderful Life. And honestly, it could honestly go higher on a rewatch for me, because I was blown away by this moment. I saw it for the first time this year, and this moment just broke me when when George Bailey realizes everything that he's lost, and how his actions in his life have affected the town he lives in, and without him, what the town would be like. And he completely breaks and just starts screaming, I want to live. And then when he notices his lip starts bleeding, he's like, my lips bleed. And he starts screaming Merry Christmas, running all the way down back to his place. And when he finally gets back, there's cops there waiting for me. He's like, isn't it wonderful? I'm getting arrested. And it's such a great moment, such a great day. And I broke down watching this film. One of the most beautiful moments I've seen in a long time, and definitely gonna make this a priority to show my family this Christmas. It's beautiful.
Yeah, this great pick. I watch this movie every year, and this scene, from this moment on, I'm kind of a mess. As soon as he's down and I want to live, and then the snow starts, and Bert shows up, and my lips bleeding. Bert, what do you think about that? And just the euphoria of him running down the street. Now I love how they juxtapose you know, that first like walk through Potter's Field in the town, and you know, just what it became, and then him seeing the town as it really is, and then just everything with him, you know, when everybody starts coming in, and just all the callbacks to everything that's happening, all the people he helped, and everything. Yeah, it's beautiful. I love this so much. Just, you know, peak Capra, peak Stewart. Fantastic scene. Cody, you know, you can give me your opinion on the black and white version or the color. It's up to you. But what's everybody think about this scene?
Well, I will say, like, have you seen this in color? Because at least a half star higher overall. But I'm confused. When I did my ratings last year, I based it on how it makes me feel around that time of year. This is like my number 2 now. I've come full circle on this movie. I think this movie is brilliant. I think this is like the definition of like makes me feel like the Christmas spirit more than most movies. Joy, happiness, everything. I just wouldn't pick if I'm picking one. If I pick one scene per movie, I don't know if this is the scene I pick from the movie. I think there are other scenes. I think there are brilliant scenes. I love the scene. I think it's a very short moment, especially him. I want to live. I like the ending, like when they're like all around. I think that's more of a thing. I like them. So that's just my takeaway. I don't say it's a bad scene at all. Again, I would never say that with Kirk here or the number one Jimmy Stewart fan also running the show. Like I want to like make that clean. I think I want to make you both happy. But no, I've come full circle. I think it's a great thing. My only downside is like it's still like I hate that it's a one time a year kind of movie for me. You know, that's the one takeaway. But color version. Miles better than black and white. Let's not get crazy. We have the color. We have the technology. Let's use the technology.
Yeah, I don't know if you're being sarcastic, Cody, because that seems like such an
Sunset Boulevard
take.
Oh, listen, Sunset Boulevard, put it in color. 12 Acre Men, put it in color. All these things would be better with brighter cinema.
Why are you the way that you are?
Workers leaving the Lumiere factory, please.
Yes, train arriving at the station.
Go ahead, Jake.
I haven't seen the movie. I might watch it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
what did he say?
Come on, Jake.
I had to watch Crocodile Dundee, okay? I had preferences. You know?
He hates Christmas!
I do kind of hate Christmas.
There's literally no one in the world that I don't hate right now.
It's a great, wonderful, feel-good scene. Let's move on.
I don't like how you dismissed it, Scott. Cody, what is your number 61? Cody, are you there?
At least I've seen the movie.
True.
True.
Is the caller there?
Paging Cody Newberry.
And is Cody Newberry in the room with us now?
I really want him to go before me, so can Cody...
Sorry, I had to step away real quick. Sorry.
You're 61.
What is even mine? Cole, put it up. I don't know.
Yikes.
Oh, no.
I knew I wasn't talking again, so that's why I stepped away. Sorry. Yes.
All right, that takes us to Jake.
Why'd you want me to go?
All right, so
Oh no.
this may be the worst choice that I've ever made in my entire life.
Wow.
To my sub 61.
You have the shit.
Okay. In all honesty, this should be number 1. I fucked up. This is 61. This should be number 1. I realized that this is probably the most important scene in the history of cinema, and I fucked up by putting it at 61. I just want to apologize to everyone. There's a filmmaker named Neil Breen. He makes incredible movies. Movies that inspire and uplift and, you know, expose the corruption of governments.
Gosh.
I'm picking the scene in which Neil Breen exposes the corrupt businessmen and bankers in the film Fateful Findings.
I'm gonna be hanging from the bathroom!
This is amazing.
I want to see. Yes. The most beautiful and most powerful scene in the history of cinema. Neil Breen is just like, he's a tour de force as an actor, a director, a writer, a producer, an editor, the DP. He does everything. He's just, you know, top-notch or to a filmmaker. And in the movie, he plays a guy named Dylan who is exposing the national and international governments and the corruption that's been going on through the business people and the politicians and the bankers. And he has all this information, and the whole government's trying to stop him, but he has superpowers because he is just the best human being to have ever existed. And at the end, he holds a press conference where he reveals to the world the corruption that's been going on. And we see the bankers and the politicians who basically go like, yeah, he was right. We fucked up. We're sorry. We let everyone down. And then we see a sequence where everyone commits suicide, the politicians and the bankers, whether they're hanging themselves or they're in their garage and they turn the car on and the exhaust and they die by carbon monoxide poisoning, or they just shoot themselves, or they go in the bathroom and they slit their wrists. So many different suicides that they do. There's a sequence in which a guy says that he resigns as president of the bank. We don't know what specific bank, but just in this universe, there's only one bank and he's the president of it. He resigns as president of the bank and just kills himself by shooting himself in the neck. The effects are top notch. And really, it's an inspiring, uplifting scene, which we all should watch and be united in our fight against the 1%er. Very powerful stuff. Neil Breen is such a he's a masterful filmmaker and just knows how to make good stories with good political messages. And the meaning of life is really found in the Fateful Findings. I truly believe that. So yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. Just so anybody doesn't realize what Jake is doing here, I don't want to be like, "Oh, Jake's talking about this good, serious movie."
No, what's the?
I don't think anyone thinks that.
I just want to be 100% sure that no one's missing that. I didn't watch the movie. I rewatched the Best of the Worst episode that this is on, just to get an idea of it. But yeah, this is Jake. I think the part of your brain that's supposed to understand irony is broken. This should be number 61 on your list. Holy crap. If you'd put this on 100, if you'd be like, 100, haha, Neil Breen movie. Isn't that hilarious?
It had to end an episode. I needed it to end an episode.
Oh, my God. But yeah, I think when this, I think I put the link for the scene in the chat so everybody here can watch it. I think I'm going to put it on the link on the Facebook page, just so you can get an idea what he's talking about. Neil Breen has brought me many hours of joy, basically just watching the Red Letter Media guys watch it and tear it apart. It's a Mystery Science Theater movie, basically. Neil Breen is a fascinating individual. He's kind of a less talented and less inspired Tommy Wiseau.
He's more interesting because he's more of an enigma. Tommy Wiseau just tells like everything and like, oh, it's a black comedy now. Very super serious. Neil Breen is. Neil Breen is like these are not midnight movies. He's very serious about these films.
You're right. You're right. He doesn't.
Do not get that from watching his movies.
That's absolutely true. But yeah, this is a ridiculous pick. Has anybody else seen this, or does anybody else have a comment on it?
I don't even know this movie.
I was watching a little bit of it while Jake was talking. The two things it reminds me of, first of all, the editing is very much like the boardroom scene from Birdemic, 100%. Like how bad the sound editing is. And then number two, this reminds me of how in the Steven Seagal film On Deadly Ground, at the very end, he like randomly after this action movie, he randomly has like a 5-minute monologue about climate change that just ends the movie, and it firmly reminded me of that. So I want to watch it. I know who Neil Breen is, but I have never watched his films. But I'm sure I would get enjoyment out of it.
He's got a 6th film coming up soon. Hopefully, that'll be soon. We can watch that all together.
It's time to stop.
Jake started this episode off being like, "These are my less outrageous picks." So
not that I ever cared what Jake thought about if I liked movies or not, like, or I was correct. This just proved that I really now don't give a shit. Like, you said 60. I mean, good job, Jake. I'm proud of you.
So, I've never heard of this movie, and the more you talked about it, the more confused I got about what the hell this movie is. I don't know if I'll ever watch it, but thank you for telling me that it exists, because I wouldn't have known otherwise.
Oh man, Okay. Let's cleanse our palate. Scott, take us home on this one.
All right. I will certainly do that. It's the ending scene of Arrival is my 61. Yeah, so we're talking about another Denis Villeneuve film. This one is my favorite. It's just such a beautiful exploration of the world sort of coming together and choosing peace, choosing love in a potentially volatile situation, and that is perfectly captured by the personal journey that Amy Adams' character goes on over the course of the movie. Obviously, we get the reveal that what we see at the beginning of the movie with her daughter dying actually has not happened yet, and because of her experience with the alien language, she has these like premonitions basically of what's going to happen in the future. And so she now at the ending of the movie is faced with the realization that you know she is now at the point where she can choose to be with Jeremy Renner, even though she knows that they're going to have this child together. The child's going to die. He's going to leave her, and it's ultimately going to end in tragedy and heartbreak. And yet she decides to make the choice to do it anyway, because it is worth it to her. And I think that's such a beautiful sentiment, again. And all of this is being conveyed through this really, evocatively written voiceover monologue, set to the Max Richter piece on the nature of daylight, which is a beautiful piece of music where like the violins are like, it sounds like the violins are like crying in the piece of music. Like that's literally what it sounds like. And so it's obviously very emotional. And this sort of like soft sci-fi type stuff that is like relating the cosmos to our own human experience always really connects with me. And I think especially there's something like very, even though it deals with serious topics, like very soothing about this movie to me. And I think the note that it leaves us on again with her, choosing to go through the trials and tribulations because the journey is worth it, the love, the experience that she will get along the way is worth it to her, is inspiring to pretty much anyone, because obviously we all face those times in our own lives. And I love again her Amy Adams' performance is so great in the movie, and we see her like really struggling with the decision in the end, and then she just like in the final moment she just grabs on a little bit tighter to Jeremy Renner as they hug, and so that is like the movie's way of saying she's doing it, she's going to go through with it. And we see like her daughter's entire life play out there in like 20 seconds worth of images. It's just it's one of the most emotional and moving endings to me. I love this movie.
Yeah, this is another movie I've watched it a couple times now. It hasn't fully grabbed me. I like it. I don't love it as much as like you do, Scott. But I'm finding more in it. But ever since the first time I saw it, I love the ending. I love how it plays out. I love that it's one of those things like it's a twist where you don't see it coming, but also the movie didn't cheat. It makes perfect sense of how it works. But yeah, just the idea of her, knowing what the pain is going to be and still be willing to go through it because it's worth it, I think is really strong. And I think for a movie about like aliens and stuff like that it's just pretty cool that it has like those very much those big overarching themes. Everybody else on the ending of Arrival?
I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't like the ending of this movie. I'm sorry. Not a fan. I've never gotten it with the phone call and blah, blah, blah. But I figured it was going to be on some people's list. I'm glad it's just on one.
So I love this movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it. If I had seen it more recently, chances are I'd have a scene from it on the list. But as of right now, so good pick though.
I haven't seen this since the cinemas. I did a double feature one day of this and Nocturnal Animals, or Amy Adams' double feature. And Arrival, I think, is fantastic. I do like the idea of this movie playing with the perception of time, and that whole opening sequence is just like fantastic, and then how it sort of plays into the rest of the movie. And the ending's good. I think I like other scenes though, but I do like the whole idea when Jeremy Renner's just like, I didn't join this so I can meet them, to meet you, and so it's like, okay, even though it may end in tragedy, like there's still these moments of of joy and happiness that are to be found, even knowing that your daughter will die. It's just kind of just showcases sort of like the idea of just life. This is what it is. Like there are going to be tragedy, but there's also going to be joy and happiness to be found. So I do like the idea and I do like the movie, and I do like what the scene is trying to say.
All right. That wraps up this episode. I got to name winners. This is tough. It's a tight race this week.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, I mean,
it though?
I think the top three have all pretty solid lists. So I got to pick a few things out here. First place is actually going to go to Jack.
Yes.
Jack had a solid list. He had Godfather, Wonderful Life, 2 of my all-time favorite scenes, and the rest of his list was pretty strong. So I'm going Jack number 1. Number 2 is going to be Scott. I won't say which one, but Scott has my favorite scene of all time on his list today, and a couple other strong ones. His overall list was a little weaker than Jack's, so that's why he's going number 2. Cody's number 3. Nothing bad on his list, but he didn't have those high highs like Jack and Scott did. And then Jake being Jake. Jake had a chance. Jake had some solid picks this week.
Yes.
But then we end up with Fateful Find number 61. So
hey, I had to include Neil Breen's scene. It's a scene that just changes people's lives.
You'd have to put it 61, Jake. Okay.
At least you talked about your scene, so give you credit to that.
So that's it. We'll join us next week. We are going to crack the 50s. Almost halfway through. We've survived so far. Let's see if we survive it another week.
Jack, take a nap before next week, please.
Thank you all
so you can talk.
We'll see you next week.
Neil Breen, hive mind.
You're not going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Drunk and angry. Come on, break the lousy cup. Ow! I hurt my arm.
Bob, and I'd expect everybody to do everything.
I'm going there soon,
Is that so? Where are you going?
Uruguay.
Well, you go Uruguay and I'll go mine.